Cool. So welcome everyone to this session on Demythifying MBA by specifically SIBM Pune Alumni. This session will be covering all your doubts and queries regarding a particular college, which is SIBM Pune. There'll be viewers who will be having multiple calls from different colleges of the same league. So we'll try to make your decision a little simpler. We'll try to cover all the aspects related to this particular college, which is SIBM Pune again. So I'll quickly take time out to introduce our panelists that we have today. So we have panelists from 2018 batch, 2020 batch, and 2021 batch. And apart from this, we'll be having a person from 2022 batch as well, who's currently in his second year. He'll be talking about his online MBA experience and how things went in last 1 year, how their procedures and everything went, like the classes and all the things. So we will be talking about that towards the end of the session when that person joins. But till then, we'll be covering different aspects, like we have an agenda that we have to cover. So quickly, I'll introduce the panelists that we have today. So we have Kunal, Nisha, and Akash, who have done their MBA in marketing. All three are from 2020 batch. And we have Aniket, who's passed out in 2021, and he's specialized in finance. And then we have Chandni, who passed out in 2018. She specialized in HR. So Kunal and Nisha, Kunal worked in Wipro Consumer Care during his summers and backed the PPO, and currently is working there as a senior marketing executive. Whereas Nisha worked with Titan during her summers and then backed the PPO, and then she's working with Titan as a management trainee. And third up, we have Akash. Akash worked with Mahindra during his summer internship, and then currently is working as a management trainee at Reckitt Benckiser. And Aniket did his summer internship at AB in Beverages, again back the PPO, and currently he's going to join as a principal analyst in the next couple of weeks, AB in Beverages. And lastly, we have Chandni. So Chandni, like I said, passed on in 2018. She did a summer internship at GE Digital, got her finals at Ola, and currently she's working with Hike. So that's about the panelists. I'll leave it to you guys to give a little bit about yourself, as in your MBA experience, how it was. And first, I mean, before going to the MBA experience, I want you to introduce yourself in depth, like things which I would not have covered, and how you ultimately ended up doing an MBA. So some are engineers, some are BCom graduates. So why did you choose MBA, and then why SIBM Pune? So I'll start with Akash, and then I'll kind of moderate it to other panelists. Yes, Akash, all yours.
Yeah. So I am an engineer. You got it right. And while I was doing my engineering, I realized that I'm going to be a really bad engineer. So if you've seen Three Idiots, I was the R Madhavan of engineering, and I realized that this is not something that I want to end up doing. And so in my engineering, by I think the third year, I had decided that I would probably rather want to pursue management as a career option. And I, in fact, ended up trying in the fourth year. I appeared for all the exams just to get to know whether I am actually cut out for it or not. And I couldn't clear most of them because I hadn't done my preparation correctly, but I cleared TIS, and I went for the TISNET interview. And I realized that there is a lot of preparation that is required, but it also spiked my interest that this is something that I would want to do in the long term, and the vibe there was really great. And so when I came back, I also spoke to people in different coaching centers, etc. They said what you can probably do is that you can take up a little bit of a work ex, right? Because as I said, I was a really bad engineer, so my scores were also really bad. So people who have really poor scores, less than 60%, please don't worry. You have some sort of representation in the panel as well. So I was one of those people, and so it was scary. But then I took a job in sales and marketing. I have worked in a travel startup called Seek Sherpa, which is based out of Delhi, for 1.5 years, 19 months actually. And there, that is when I realized that I can actually do this. I did a lot of things from ground up there. So because it was a startup, there was no uh, you know set in motion sort of a thing that you have to work in a certain way, or this is what you're supposed to do, or the skill set you're supposed to have. So everything that I did, I had a lot of on the job learning, right? And that is what propelled me further to make sure that I get a theoretical understanding of marketing and sales, and then pursue it forward, right? And that was probably my inspiration to go into MBA. And then I quit my job. So people who have gaps in their career, again, representation in the panel. I quit my job. I prepared for 1 year, and then I landed up at SIBM. I had calls from NMIMS, SIBM, IMT, XIMB, Mica, and I converted all of them. My doubts were between NMIMS, SIBM, and Mica, and then eventually SIBM and Mica. I chose SIBM primarily because I had set my sights on FMCG then. Although it was a dicey, I mean, it was a roll of a dice. I obviously knew that because of my profile, it might be a little difficult, but that is what I'm sure a lot of people, when they get into sales and marketing, aspire for, right? So that was my idea as well. And so I chose SIBM Pune over Mica. So if you have any such doubts, I mean, most welcome to, I'd be happy to address them. And then once I joined SIBM, I think that was a really good turnaround. If I were to describe the 2 years that I've had in college, I think they were probably the most, not only the most amazing years, but also the most personality defining years of my life, because I changed a lot in myself and it came very inherently. So I joined the aspirant relations team there, which takes care of the admissions process. I was a part of the aspirant relations team for the 2 years. I participated in a lot of case competitions from the first year itself. I won a competition. I was the campus winner in competition by Signify. In fact, before my summer internship. So from in the first year as well, I participated in a lot of case study competitions. I got through to regionals in one of them. I was campus winner in one. And then the next year, obviously, when I came back from the internship, I continued participating. I've been a regional finalist in two other competitions. I backed two BPIs, which is a decent enough record in the batch. I had a BPI from VSS, Vodafone Services, which is now Voice, and from RB, and I finally converted RB and I've joined. I've been working as a management trainee here for a year. So yeah, if I have a little bit of an understanding of FMCG as well, so I can clarify doubts on that as well. Over to Chandni,
Okay.
probably.
I'll just have like a couple of
Yeah,
questions which I want to
sure,
ask you
sure.
because you said
Sure.
you had options with respect to different colleges. So you
Yeah,
said you had SIBM, you had Mica, you had NM, and other colleges. What propelled you to choose SIBM over say Mica, which is considered to be like a very good college
yeah.
for say marketing aspirants?
Hmm.
People leave
Hmm.
Ahmedabad for Mica. So this is the thing which I want to clarify from you
Yeah,
because you had calls. What propelled that decision? And secondly,
sure.
because SIBM and NMIMS are also like similar category kind of colleges. So why did you choose SIBM over NMIMS, considering that most of the FMCG recruiters would visit NMIMS and some might miss out visiting SIBM Pune? So again, what is that
Agree.
thing that triggered this particular choice of yours?
So with SIBM and NMIMS, it's a fairly obvious choice. I mean, it's very simple. NMIMS has a batch of around 700 people, right? 650, 700 people. So when you end up taking up marketing there, you are fighting for a place amongst at least 250 odd people, right? So it could be higher, but to quote an average number, there are about 250 to 300 people who take up marketing every year at NMIMS, right? It's a very healthy pool of people as well, because the more the merrier, right? So people from different walks of life, etc. Now the challenge is here that if you want to get into, let's say, the same company which visits both the campuses, SIBM has a batch of about 180, 200 people, right? So then the odds definitely get better when you're at SIBM Pune compared to say an NMIMS, because the if the same number of companies are visiting, you would at least want to, and the batch size at SIBM Pune is less than half, so it's about 120, 130 people, and in a year where a lot of people also want to take up marketing, it's close to 140, right? It still is around half of the batch size that you will have at an NMIMS, right? So for me, that was also an important factor, because again, when it comes to placements, it's always better that you get to have that opportunity with lesser competition, right? Although having said that, it's not that the competition is so weak that there are just 20 students. So there are still 120 students, so you get a chance to prove yourself. But then you get a fair chance at every company, right? That's one. And the other thing is, the advantage that you get with, let's say, 200 people is that you know everyone in the batch, right? So I think all of us here can vouch for the fact that ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि मेरी बैच में से किसी का नाम सुन लिया मैंने, आज फेसबुक पे उनकी शादी हो रही है, आई डोंट नो ये कौन है, ठीक है, बुलाया नहीं वो बात अलग है, बट ये तो पता रहता है कि कौन है, राइट? तो that is something that, you know, it brings you closer to the batch also, and that sort of camaraderie stays, then that's something that will stay with you for the longest of times, right? With Mica and SIBM, it was very difficult because although we understand Mica as a very traditional, or we think of it as a traditional B school, it's mostly not. So Mica has actually gone through a lot of transitions. It was an advertising college, right, when it started, and then it became like a communications college, and now it's actually trying to, establish itself as a proper B school. But through those transitions, so in Mica, there are a fair bit of companies that come in, which are advertising agencies or which are, branding agencies. So that is something that I thought I'm not looking for. So I wanted a more traditional sort of an FMCG or even an IT related experience after I end up doing my MBA. So those are, so for example, if you go to Mica, the amount of, let's say, B2B or IT companies that you will see for placements are very few, right? So that whole section gets cordoned off. So you will have your advertising companies, you will have your branding companies, etc., that will come in. Now there are new age startups, etc., and marketing analytics companies that come in, and then a good chunk of companies that visit all the campuses. So the ones that will visit SIBM Pune or NMIMS, FMCG, FMCD, etc. But then you won't have a lot of B2B options there. While at SIBM Pune, it's a more traditional MBA, it's a specialization based MBA. And when you're going for your summers also, it's very clear that you're sitting for your marketing placements, ops placements, HR placements, or film placements, which means that the companies that come in and the roles that you will get will also be specialized, right?
Right.
And I think that was something that I was looking for. It was a very difficult decision, but that is what tilted my opinion towards IBM Pune, that I want a more traditional sort of an experience. But it's, I think, again, it's up to the person, they want to take it up. A short note again, the fees was very competitive between SIBM and Mica. The CTC figures at the time were a little far away. So Mica, because you have a lot of agencies coming in, they don't, it's their market rate, the pay that they have is comparatively lesser than, let's say, FMCGs or FMCDs, right? So that's defined by the industry as well. In their career, I mean, they end up doing really well. If you're working for an OGLV, you will end up doing well, really, obviously. But initially, I mean, this is a bit of a challenge. So for someone like me who was taking up a loan, that was also something that I considered, that the average placements are going to be better at SIBM Pune.
Okay, thank you so much for that elaborate, discussion that you gave. I mean, it's very difficult for people to make a choice. At least for people who want to pursue marketing as a career, choose between these three colleges. And many questions I've been receiving on this particular aspect. So I just wanted to clarify this towards the very beginning. Okay, having said that, thank you so much, Akash, for that elucidation of your experience, as well as the reason behind you choosing SIBM over other colleges. Okay, I'll move to Nisha now. So Nisha, like a bit about you, as in a little bit of an introduction about yourself, like your background, and then what propelled your decision of doing an MBA, and your MBA experience as in 2 years at SIBM. I see you traveled a lot as well. So I want you to elaborate on the fun part rather than just the academics and competition and anything else.
Sure. So I've done a BBA in my undergrads, and then I started preparing for CAT in the second year. And fortunately, unfortunately, I did not crack any of the examinations in the first year, so I took a year gap. So for all of you who think that a year gap is a very negative thing on your CV, it's definitely not. Nobody's even going to ask you a question why you took a year gap. So in the second year, I actually happened to crack NMIMS Mumbai, SIBM Pune, IMT Ghaziabad, and XIMB, and I chose SIBM solely for the fact because of its campus. I mean, it's beautiful. It's nothing compared to NMIMS. So, and Pune mattered a lot to me because I've heard a lot of stories about it. And since I'm a foodie, I like to travel a lot. So Pune was the ultimate decision for me that guided my decision to, choose SIBM over NMIMS. Also, my MBA experience, I would say, is very different from what Akash actually experienced. My MBA got over very early for me. I think after in June, just one MBA was just 1 year for me. I bagged a paper from Titan, and then I did not take part in any of the competitions because I wanted to enjoy my life. And then I actually discovered who I am as a person when in these 2 years. I started my food blog. I traveled a lot of places. I actually made so much of connections and friends that I think my MBA is something that has actually defined me, who I am as a person, and it has helped me take the most wonderful decisions of my life. And I'm very happy that, I did not choose the traditional way of MBA, doing competitions, always in the library. I actually happen to enjoy the campus and explore Pune as well as the nearby cities a lot. So that was MBA for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Nisha. I'll just change the order a bit, not wanting to just talk about marketing. I'll come to Kunal towards the end. I'll probably move to Chandni now. So, you did a specialization which is, not really the forte of SIBM Pune, but that's the reason why I wanted to, ask you this question. That firstly, did you decide this in advance that you wanted to do an MBA in HR, or this is like you did not have any other option and hence you had to go for it? And apart from that, again, what are other options you had? What made you take a decision as to why MBA in HR from SIBM Pune? So, because if I'm not wrong, at least 60 to 70% of the people who go to SIBM Pune opt for marketing. So I want to know what's the scenario for HR people. I mean, HR candidates. What sort of companies and what sort of opportunities there are for HR people. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So very quickly about myself. I think Harsh really gave a great introduction. But yes, I am from the batch 2016 and 18. Did HR, and like he asked if before that, I am also an engineer just like Akash in with computer science. I also hated engineering. There was no way that I wanted to pick it up or do it, but I still had to because that's what we are told when we pick up science in class 12th. So yeah, anyway, did that and then took a break for a year and then finally pursued my MBA. I was very clear from the very beginning that I wanted to do HR. I have a fair interest in psychology. I really enjoy things, where people are at the core of problems. I really enjoy navigating through software aspects. I think that every person's unique and it's a different unique problem statement when you go about handling people. It's not just numbers, so it's way more difficult. Honestly, people have a different view about HR, but I think HR is not that easy. And I thoroughly enjoy it, and that was I was very clear that whatsoever I'll pick up HR. So even before I actually started writing my MBA exams or these entrance exams, I was clear that I'm going to pick up HR, and that's why I was focusing on a lot of these HR specific exam colleges, be it Excel or TIS, and I'm sure all of you would have given those. I gave them too. I probably couldn't clear them at that point in time, but final calls I had from were MDI, SCMHRD, IMT Ghaziabad, and of course SIBM Pune. I eventually cleared, SCMHRD, SIBM, and IMT. Didn't want to go to IMT. I was living in Ghaziabad. There was no way I was going to go to IMT Ghaziabad. So no way. Then came SCMHRD and SIBM Pune. I think I'm going to take the same analogy that Akash did. If you see, SCMHRD has a batch of 120, 130 people in HR, whereas SIBM Pune has somewhere around 40, 45 people. And as far as the competition or in terms of the good companies that come in, they're quite competitive, honestly. Some really good companies that come in for SIBM Pune as well. And over the years, in fact, the last few years, SIBM's done in fact incredibly well in terms of building their brand. Which was the case even times when I had joined. So I wouldn't say that there was any, SIBM is any less for HR. So I was smart enough to pick up HR at that point in time and be in a batch of say 40, 45 people. So I had to compete with a lot of people, and that was great. Of course, the 40, 45 people were extremely smart. So difficult again, but that was the choice that I made at that point in time. Yeah.
Okay. But, traditionally, if you see that, SCMHRD has more of a specialized HR curriculum compared to SIBM Pune. And I'm pretty sure that some recruiters which come to SCMHRD for hiring for HR might not come to SIBM. Is that the case, or is it like, the recruiter set that comes to both these colleges is kind of similar?
I am not very sure about what happens now, but for as much as I know, a lot of recruiters and companies want to go to SIBM Pune as well because of a very good alum base in marketing. And by the way, we have some really good alum base at senior positions in HR as well. So you name the great organizations, and you will actually see very senior people out there in from SIBM Pune in HR. So I think even if you're missing out on any particular recruiter, it could be because of multiple other reasons, but not because of the brand name or the quality of students. So and there are quite a few organizations that have actually started coming in. I think HUL and RB and L'Oreal, and you name them, and they're coming to SIBM now. So I don't see any difference, honestly, unless there's a major a tussle between the place comps. I doubt there's anything that's going to really make a difference. So no, I'm not sure, or maybe I'm not sure. Maybe the young kids can answer that better. But as far as I know, I think we have quite a few good recruiters coming in for both the colleges.
Just to add to that, so basically the HR course at SIBM Pune is the original USP of SIBM Pune. So SIBM Pune was actually established before IIM Bangalore as well, in fact, right? So it's one of the oldest HR courses in the country. I think probably after TIS and XLRI, I could be wrong, but it's a fairly old course that they've run, and it used to be run under personnel management PM, I think, earlier, and then it's so because of that, there are a lot of FMCG companies especially have someone or the other from SIBM Pune in their leadership when it comes to HR specifically. So I would say that if you're comparing the alumni base, although because marketing, a lot of people have now recently gone up to the leadership positions, but in HR we've had people in the leadership positions for a very long time now, which is also why the marketing placements flourished, right, in the first place, because of our HR base. So if I were to say, I think, and Chandni would also agree, I think everyone will agree that marketing and HR are both equally good at SIBM Pune.
Yeah,
that's the opinion that I had, at least when I went in.
Okay, thank you for adding your bit, Akash. And Chandni, just again, a couple of questions to you. First is, because you have already been in the industry for at least 3 years now after your MBA. When a person wants to specialize in HR or kind of wants to make a career in HR, they are confused between different subdomains or trajectory which they can have as an HR. So yeah. I want to know, as in, what exactly can be the career scope in this particular specialization? What all fields can one look at when, from a recruitment point of view, or say building a career like 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line? Where do you see yourself in an organization, or what exactly is the career trajectory of an HR from you?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a very good question. So even I was very confused, when I picked up HR as to what is it that I want to do, because while all of it is with people at the core, but there are very different things and diverse things that, we have in HR. But honestly, when you pick up HR, don't think about what particular vertical will you end up into, because I think in HR, 3 years into the corporate world, and I'm still figuring out what is the best that I want to do. While I really enjoy people partnering, I still enjoy, so okay, a couple of, to enlist a few verticals, it's comp and ben, it's learning and development, talent management, of course, talent acquisition, and it is business partnering or people partnering. And honestly, I've done pretty much all of that in the last 3 years, and I'm still figuring out what is the next that I want to do. So don't bind yourself to any particular vertical to start with. Just go about, experimenting, throwing yourself through different challenges, and learn and understand what your strengths are. So a lot of people who are really good with numbers actually may want to pick up comp and ben, because there's some interesting problem statements out there to solve, and especially with startups coming in and different compensation structures that you need to build and whatnot. For learning and development, of course, because us going virtual, and then different diverse workforces coming in, the different needs when it comes to learning. So that's another thing. Business partnering is altogether a different game, because you get to meet so many different people from different industries, because whatever the industry you go into, and the best part about HR is, I think, that you could actually switch industries if you were to, because it's a horizontal function after all, right? So I may actually be working in a sales organization and then move to a mobility organization in e-commerce, or maybe a startup or a product organization, a tech organization. So that's the most interesting part about HR. You get to meet so many different people, and different workforces have very different requirements or expectations from organizations and culture. So to keep it crisp, if I were to, I think don't bind yourself or look forward to any particular vertical that you want to pick up. That will come to you over time as you go into the corporate world, and you will get, you will pave a way for yourself eventually. But right now, just focus on HR, and maybe while you're actually studying MBA, you will realize that there are certain interests or strengths that you already have. You can tap those, else you can actually, go to untapped territories and figure out what is the best that you want to pick up in HR. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just like a counter question to you, like, a person who pursues marketing has to start with sales. Similarly, in HR, when a student pursues HR, what sort of companies come for recruitments and what kind of roles do they offer? So how does a person start their career in a corporate if he or she has specialized in HR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can talk about my experience. When I sat for my summers, I got through GE Digital, which is a product-based, company. And back then, there were people in HR who actually went through a sales role, or sales as in a sales-based company. People were in an industry-based company. So, for instance, Reliance Industries were there. There was a consultant role as well. EY had come in back then. There was Cipla that had come in. So, quite a few industries there that come into SIBM Pune. Marketing also comes in, and of course, you can get a role there. Interesting roles that come to HR, which are majorly going to be industry based, right? At the end of the day, all of us will have to, in HR at least, have to do, or look at employee experience and keep employee at the core of it. But like I said, every different industry has different expectations from HR, so it's interesting to see what role you get. At SIBM, yes, you get tech companies don't really come in. They don't. For instance, Ola was one of those very first e-commerce companies to come to SIBM, and it's a startup actually. So I don't know. I'm not very sure if a lot of startups came back then. I don't know if they come now. I think they do. We still go in, at least from Ola, we did go to SIBM again and again. But yeah. So startups is completely altogether a different ball game. So that's very interesting. But different companies in different industries do come to SIBM for HR as well. Yeah.
Okay. And again, the last question is your MBA experience, because you did it in an offline setting. So how exactly is this SIBM? Because Nisha said she was fascinated with the campus, and that's the reason why she chose SIBM. So again, I want to know your experience of having done your MBA from SIBM, your 2 years. I mean, the moments that you cherish from that experience.
Absolutely. No, I think, yes, definitely USP of SIBM Pune is the campus. No two ways about it. It's beautiful. And Pune city in itself, the weather and whatnot. And of course, when you go to any B school for that matter, just ensure that you enjoy those 2 years. At least I enjoyed my 2 years. I was a part of the alum team. So I enjoyed that. I got to network with a lot of senior alums, with a lot of people, seniors, juniors. It was a very interesting experience back in SIBM. A lot of learning. There were a lot of case studies that we took part in. Although for HR, I'm not sure how it works now. Back then, we had quite a few case study competitions coming in. Although I was never very keen on participating in a lot of them. I was, but yeah, I did participate in a few, and I really enjoyed it because case studies are really interesting, way of understanding what different problem statements do industries have. So that's a very good time, you actually invest in. That's one thing that I did. I would attend quite a few, actually a lot of lectures. I don't know how was it with you guys, but back in campus, it's interesting to go and attend a lot of lectures because classrooms are beautiful. It's lovely, and early morning lectures, I would attend early morning lectures as well. I don't know about other guys, but yeah, overall it's fun. So if you're actually going to an MBA college, just enjoy, chill. It's the 2 years that you will always remember. Carry great friends with you, carry great experiences. Believe me, that's what you will take away from SIBM or any B school for that matter. It's not the professional learnings that you will take. You won't, believe me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chandni, for that. I mean, answering all the questions that I threw at you. Just want to inform the people who are attending this session that we'll be taking up your questions that you're putting on the chat box towards the end of the session. So you can put your questions now, and they'll get answered towards the end of the session when we start the live Q&A round. Okay, I'll move on to Aniket. So Aniket, over to you, because you did your majors in finance. So I want to know what's the scenario for finance at SIBM Pune. Just like Chandni explained for HR, I want you to explain for finance. And again, like your experience, because you did your second year as an online. I mean, your second year was completely online. So how is it different from your first year? Because you had the flavor of offline plus online MBA. So I want to know it from you as to how was online MBA different from offline MBA. Also with respect to placements, like you had your summers in an offline setup, your finals in an online setup. So how do these things matter? Did you see kind of recruiters not coming this year for finals, or what was the difference between that? And secondly, like I said, your experience with respect to MBA at SIBM. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, before I answer your questions, I'll introduce myself and I'll talk more about my background because, while choosing finance, people tend to think more about the background, their academic background, my 10%, 12%. So I'll give some brief about my academic background. I scored 90 plus percentages in 10th and 80 plus in 12th. And then I chose engineering, and I did my engineering from not so great college, okay, a very small college in Pune. And I took up a job after engineering. The job was really good. I joined as a team lead and worked there for around a year. Then I actually, meanwhile, I cracked a few banking exams, and I was waiting for the joining letter, and but it took more than 8 to 10 months to get the final joining and all. So finally I decided to join State Bank of India as a probationary officer. I worked there for around 30 months as a for the 30 months, and for the first 12 months I worked there as an assistant manager. And after after one and a half year, I got promoted and I worked there as a deputy manager. So mostly I worked in the retail banking, commercial banking, and risk management. After that, while I was working there, I understood a few things that, while working in a bank, but I did not know what balance sheet is. If I'm giving out a loan, I don't know what balance sheet is. How will I am I going to give a loan? Because there was a a foolproof setup is there. You just enter the data of customers or the people who want loan, and the system will tell you that that person is eligible or not. That person is eligible for X amount of loan, Y amount of loan. So but I really wanted to know the details, how basically these things work. At the same time, I started investing. I was introduced to the financial markets, and even in SBI also I worked in forex market. I got training in the treasury business as well. So that basically then, but it was more from the operations point of view. But later I got to know, I need to deep dive into this things, learn this financial markets and all. Then I decided that I'll do MBA. That's the only way to go forward. However, when people work in SBI, when they want to leave SBI, there are very few options for them. Really good, the cream crowd goes to UPSC or RBI, and then other people decide to do MBA, and then the rest decide to stay with that organization. So after that, I wrote a CAT. I wrote SNAP and Maharashtra CET. I did not write NM and MAT and other exams like that. So my score in CAT was around 94 percentile, and with that percentile, I got to know that I'm not going to get any IM. And SNAP score was really good, although it was it was on a lower side, 97.55 percentile. And in MHCET, I scored really well. I was hoping to get into JBMS, but I couldn't get. So I scored 99.89 percentile, but I couldn't get JB. And I waited for the last rounds, like last three, third, then the fourth round, but I couldn't get it. So choosing SIBM was not actually an option for me. It was basically the last option for me. So I chose SIBM. That's first thing. And another thing was, why I applied to only JBIMS, or sorry, MBA CET or SNAP or CAT. So I decided that I'll not go for because writing exams and preparing for them was a challenge working with State Bank of India. So I decided okay, I'll focus on 2-3 exams only, and if I get into it, I'll take admission this year. So that was the reason I chose SIBM. And while choosing finance, it was already decided. I mean, if I if I go for an MBA, then I'll choose finance only. So that was the calling even before deciding the college. So that's about my background. Now coming to the college life, the first year, it was offline. My internship was online because internship started on the first of April 2020. So it was completely online. And after internship, I got a PPO from the organization, from AB InBev. And after accepting that PPO, the college started in the month of July and August. And it again, from then it is still today, it is online only. I have seen the offline side of my MBA, and online also. So one thing is there. See, what happens? Online, offline is obviously, a better choice, because in online there are a lot of limitations. From the learning point of view as well, and from the communication point of view as well. Again, you miss out on the campus life, because most of the people who choose SIBM, they choose it for the campus life. So here we are missing that point as well. And so, but since a few of my batchmates have already received PPO, usually people stop attending lectures after they receive a PPO, and they start enjoying their life. They explore the city and all. uh, it was basically same for me and other people who received PPO. But I will again say that for finance, it is very important to attend sessions or attend lectures, and and even if you're not attending lectures, at least you should you need to keep that momentum of learning. Because if you lose that momentum, then the problem is there. Because I'm from my experience, I can tell the finance subjects are really tough. Even though I have worked in the same domain before my MBA, it is still tough to learn some subjects, to understand. And it requires to devote a lot of time to understand and work on these subjects. So for me, yeah, it really is a challenge from the learning perspective. I mean, online challenge, because you cannot interact with faculty members the way you interacted in the offline setup. So that was one of the issues. Again, the other issues, like your placements are going to be online only. You are not on campus. Usually on campus the placements are like, it's a complete different thing. But here, since it was online, the conducting placements for the placecom as well, and also sitting for interviews, or for placement processes also, it was a challenging for students as well. My batchmates, I know, because they face a lot of challenges. Some people, some organizers were very considerate. Even if you don't have a proper internet connection, they would give you some time to join back after some time when you have a good connection. But usually in the normal case, companies are given slots, and then if you have to conduct the whole process during that period. And if you fail to conduct, then your chance, I mean, basically, if you do not show up, then your chance is gone. So this was actually a problem with online setup. But yeah, I would say the companies were very considerate. They considering the situation that we all were in, and they were very considerate. So people did not face much difficulty during the whole placement process. And again, from the placement point of view, the only thing that got affected is the timeline. Because usually when placement started, usually in the month of December, or let's say for every college, the schedule is different for different colleges. So that got affected. However, the placements did not get affected because of the pandemic. Because I have seen because in the next few days, the placement report will be out. And you will see that there won't be much effect on the placements from the CTC point of view as well, and from the roles point of view as well. Companies have and visited actually companies have come to campus. They visited the campus, I mean, obviously online. And I feel there is also not a case that a big companies, or the other companies who were regular recruiters for or regular visitors of SIBM Pune, they did not come over. That was not the case actually. The regular companies did come, they did recruit people, and in my opinion, placement did not get affected.
Okay. I want to actually ask this question because, I mean, we have people from HR finance and marketing. So, firstly, what are the specializations that are offered at SIBM? Like, apart from these three, and I don't know whether ops is offered or not. So, I just
Ops
want to
is
know
there.
what all specializations ops is there. Is it IT? Is it also there?
No, Harsh. Operations is there, finance, marketing, and HR. Only 4 specializations are offered in SIBM Pune.
Okay, and what is the breakup of the students? Like 40% here, 20% here?
Yeah. So the thing is, usually, it is completely up to students to choose a specialization. So it is not like, we have 150 slots for marketing or we have only 30 slots for finance. It is not the case. But I'll tell you, the finance batch is usually 35 to 40 people. Again, operations batch is around 30 to 35 people. As Akash said, marketing batch is 120, around 110 people, 120 people. And HR is around 45 to 50 people.
Okay, so overall it's like 250. That's the strength of that of the college.
220 to
I mean that particular
230,
batch.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's about it. I just wanted to clarify this because some people have questions as to what all specializations are offered and why not an ops person is there in the panel. So I just wanted to ask this question. So yeah, thank you for your experience of having done finance at SIBM Pune, and how did you cope up with certain things, because you're not from a finance background. Like you must have done your engineering, and after that you went into finance. So thank you so much. Moving on to Kunal, the last panelist. Kunal, again, same questions to you as Akash and Nisha, because you did your MBA in marketing. So yeah, how did that particular thing pan out for you?
Okay, so I'll start with how I ended up in the marketing in the SIBM, right? So basically, I was from a business background. So nobody in my family was an engineer or was an MBA. So I wanted to explore. So after my school, I wanted to do engineering, and I was good in studies. So I cracked JEE, and then I went to NIT Jaipur to pursue my engineering. Opposite to Akash, I was good at engineering, but I did not like it. That's something that I have in common with Akash. So I ended up being the top 5 in my batch, and was placed in one of the biggest companies in India. But then again, when I went to the company, uh, was there for a few days or a few months, realized that I don't like it. So yeah, I saw MBA as an option that I wanted to go back to the things that I was doing before engineering. So I wanted to go back to the business side. So yeah, so I left my job, prepared around 2-3 months for CAT and all. Then took the tests. I did not do well in CAT, but I had calls from all the other colleges. So from XLRI or NMAT, NMIMS or SIBM, SPGN. So I had calls from these colleges, and finally I had the choice of NMIMS and SIBM. So basically, as Akash had already mentioned, that there are a lot of like I saw them as as the advantages. So I finally ended up joining SIBM and wanted to do marketing because already I had seen sales from my childhood. So basically, in my business, I had seen sales, the raw form of it, the rawest form, I could say. So I wanted to learn more. So how a brand is built or how to do stuff at a higher level. So that was the basic motivation for me towards doing an MBA, and that too in marketing. So yeah, that's how I ended up in marketing in SIBM. And the journey in the 2 years, initially when you end up in the college, there's an environment of a lot of competition. So you don't know uh, like what to do, or you seek guidance of seniors, then you talk to many people, you try to get like network more and more, because that's what people tell you to do in an MBA college. So basically for me it was like that only. And when we reach the summers, yeah, it's an experience, that's a lifetime experience. So yeah, so I got an internship in Wipro Consumer Care, went to the internship. It was a grind, and then I converted it and received a PPO. Then again, the second year was like it was like fun. So yeah, so that's the journey of SIBM for me. And I really made one of the best friends the best group of friends there in my life. So yeah, that's something that I cherish. Yeah.
Thank you, Kunal. Okay, having gone through the first segment of your experience and a little bit about yourself, we'll move on to the second part of this session, which is kind of your summer's experience. Firstly, which sort of companies did you target? As in, you must have something in mind because you get like 2 to 3 months before you sit for your summer's process. Were there some companies which you had kept, okay, after looking at the placement reports and knowing it from your seniors that, okay, these companies visit the campus, so these are the specific companies which I'll definitely apply for, and if I convert these companies, this will be my rank, and then I'll go to this company first, second company, third company. So I want to know, was there any preference that you guys had with respect to an industry in your domain? Like, I want to apply for only FMCG if it's marketing, I want to apply for only, say, automotive if it's HR. So something like that I want to know, like firstly your summer's experience, and then after you narrow it down to a choice set, like these companies I want to apply for, which companies did you get a shortlist from? I mean, set of companies, and then if you had sit for more than 2 to 3 processes, and those companies were from different industries, then your interview experiences would also have been different. So I want to know it from your interview experience point of view, your application point of view, and then again your experience of settling the nerves in the first couple of months of your MBA. Like it's very overwhelming, everything that's happening around. People are running a race. So I want to know, how did you settle those nerves and then finally crack your companies in which you ultimately did your internship? So again, I'll start in the same order, so I'll probably go to Akash first.
Yeah, so I'll probably do a bit on how to prepare for your summers. So from the point where you get into your college till the point you're actually placed, I'll do that bit, and then obviously the summer experience and everything. So initially, I mean, it's a breeze. So the first month, if I would say, I think everyone would agree that because of the induction, so there is a 2 week, 3 week induction, and then by the end of the first month or so, you have to actually choose your specialization. So till then, everything is a breeze. It feels like you're in a movie, you're at a resort, and everybody is trying to make sure that they take care of you, and it's all good, right? And then you end up making friends because, I mean, all of you have come up here, and then you're put into a very nice location. So it's a lot of networking that happens, as Kunal said. After that, I think the first month, once it's over, you have your councils and committees that are formed. So we have a student council that is formed. So the first elections for that happen in around the first month itself. So the first major break is once you select your specialization, that's your first milestone. And then after that, your councils get selected. So the juniors that come in the first year, they're selected by the seniors, so a team is formed. So that is your second milestone. After that, I mean, everyone sort of gets into their own groove. So a lot of people start catching up on studies. Obviously, a lot of people get into their council work. A lot of people end up preparing for summers from then and there. And a lot of people also relax then. I mean, it's comparative. I mean, it's something that is up to everyone, right? So the one mantra that I've learned in MBA, I think I learned it very soon. But it's something that I would give to everyone who's going for an MBA, is that if you go to a shop and you have and you want to buy a cold drink, and if there are 50 identical Pepsi bottles, how will you identify which one you want to buy, right? So that's the same situation. I think I hope Chandni can relate to this more than I do. But if there are a lot of amazing profiles and everyone is sort of cut from the same cloth, how does a recruiter understand, I want this particular person for my company and I don't want this person, right? A lot of it comes from the background that you've gone through, the life experiences that you've had, and that again constitutes your CV. But the mindset that you go in with in summers is also really important, right? So in those 2 months, I think the biggest thing, the biggest acclimatization that you have to do is that you have to understand that as a student now you're going to get into the corporate world, right? So that mindset change is something that really kicks in once you start having sessions which are placement related, where companies come and talk about it. They talk about their culture, they talk about what they're looking in a candidate. Then you get a lot of industry interaction. They're talking about various trends that are going on in the industry, the problems that they're facing, the sort of business challenges that they've faced, and they've grown through that. So all of this sort of gets you into the groove, and you get to understand that, okay, now I've arrived in an MBA, right? And that also ends up happening from, if not the first month, but the second month onwards, right? And you get roughly about 3 months. So in the next 2 months before summers is when you're put to the grind. So you will have to attend all the lectures, you will have to take up whatever work if you've done, if you've joined councils, etc., or anything extracurricular that you're doing, you have to take care of that as well. Apart from that, if you're someone who likes to play sports or hang out with friends, that is also something that you have to take out time for. And then you prepare for your placements as well. So in SIBM, at least we have a culture where you are helped by a lot of seniors for your placement preparation, right? So there is a specific dedicated student council team, which is RSDT, which helps you in developing your acumen for summer placements. It's called Research and Scholastic Development Team. So they make sure that they give you all the information about various industries, about various companies that usually come into the campus. You're well aware of what is going on right now in terms of current affairs, etc. Apart from that, there is a lot of mentoring that happens through the seniors. So you're well aware of their experiences. You know what you should, how should a CV look like during summers, what can you have in the CV, what can you not have in the CV. So all those things are taken care of, so you're in safe hands that way. But then ultimately the choice is yours on how you want to go, right? So there is a lot of preparation that goes in these 2 months. And then if there is a little bit of a time during the day, you also catch up on your sleep, so a couple of hours or so. So that happens. And then I think finally it's all about the nerves, right? So a lot of people, in fact including me, when we sat for our summers, I think what we realized is that and we've had dress rehearsals before as well. So we used to have mock runs, etc. We used to have GDs on our own in our hostel rooms, where we used to sort of have the same situation that there would be in like a summer internship situation, and then do like a mock run. But then when you come to the original thing, you realize that it's a test of your nerves, right? It's a test of your patience, because there is a lot of jitteriness, there is a lot of anxiety, because again it's about your career, right? So I think the major change that happens to you is not in terms of your skill set, or it's not in terms of your CV pointers or anything. I think it's more the grit that and the patience that you develop, the resilience that you have in those 3 years, 3 months. That's, I think, something that you really need to prepare for in an MBA. So I think that's my key takeaway.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akash. Yeah. Moving on to Nisha.
I think Akash has really summed up the entire summer internship process really well. I'll just straight away jump to my summer internship process. So as far as the companies or the industry was concerned, I was very sure that I wanted to, enter into FMCG industry, because I was very much interested into sales and marketing. I was very sure what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to get into any of the IT companies. That was very sure for me. So I applied to, say, let's say, or 30, 35 companies. And out of those, I got a call for maximum of, I got a call for every company that I applied except for 1 or 2 that required work ex. So it worked pretty well for me. And then GD, I cleared each and every GD. But however, I saw that I stuck up in the interview process. I was unable to clear any of the interview process until day 2. Day 2, I think it was midnight when I came to know that I had been picked up by Titan Company Limited, and that was the only interview where I actually thought that I should be myself. That was the interview where I did not prepare anything. I thought, let's just be me, and that was the company that I got picked up for. So I think it's very important for you to show who you are in the interview rather than pretending that you have done this, you have done that. It just be you, speak about your hobbies, and then drive the interview the way you want it to be driven, basically. So this was how the summer internship for me, and then I backed a PPO from Titan, and then I'm currently working in Titan. So yeah, this was how summer internship for me. Just 2 cents, be yourself in the interviews.
Okay, just a couple of questions I have. People have this particular mindset about GDs, FMCG GDs. So I want to know, as in, because you sat for a couple of GDs and like more than 2, how is the environment in those 2 discussions? Are you allowed to speak, or how exactly is it moderated by the panelists, or is it like a fish market where no one knows what's happening and you're just trying to put in your points forward? So how exactly do these things work out?
So I sat for, let's say, about 15 to 20 GDs, and it was a mix of both. Some were like utter fish market, and some were such beautifully moderated GDs. So, it's completely upon the participants of the GDs as to how they want to take it. So there were some very impatient participants who, just did not let somebody speak. So that GD was a complete fish market, and the panelists actually said that we are going to cancel this GD, and actually some GDs were cancelled. So I think it's completely upon the participants how they want to take the GD. So, before entering the GD, we used to make a pact that we'll let everybody speak. And we won't actually, intently create a fish market out of that GD. So it's very important to have an understanding among the participants that let's not create a fish market, and let's give a fair chance for everybody to speak. And if you speak for maximum, if you enter the GD for three chances and speak for, like, let's say 30-40 odd seconds and fair points, I think you're done with that GD. You clear it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nisha. Thank you. Yeah, I'll move on to Chandni. Yes, Chandni.
Yeah. So I'll first actually talk about how you go about aspiring for a particular industry or a company, right? While I very confidently said that I was very clear I wanted to pick HR, when I joined MBA, I was definitely not sure what particular industry, what role. I just started my MBA. Come on, let's be nice to ourselves. It's very difficult to have an idea of the industry, especially when you're actually moving from a different background to a completely different background, which is business and about MBA and different industries and different roles. But okay, so how does the perception go about building in campuses around how companies go about doing a pre-engagement or a pre-process engagement kind of stuff? There are some companies who will have very loud engagements, and when I mean loud, I mean Godrej as well. So some companies actually become very aspirational through the engagement that they do before they come for summers. There are some other companies who actually offer such great stipend that you start aspiring for them. Then there are some companies which actually give really good profiles, and then of course there are some companies which are actually good in that particular industry. For instance, I'm sure all the marketing peeps would always aspire for an FMCG, although they may actually sit for other profiles as well. So that's how have different categories. And honestly, I think at least that's what I did, and that's what my friends did. We went on applying for every profile that came across. And yeah, that's how it should be. You should not, like I said, you should not restrict yourselves at all. Go about it, learn. If you convert a summers, great. You will learn something even better. You will go about learning more about the role that you were in for summers, and if not, then you will have something else coming your way. So there are a lot of opportunities that are going to be there at in these schools. So that should not stop you from really restricting yourselves. While I do agree sometimes that Nisha, I resonate with you. Even I didn't want to go for IT companies, but I think believe me, that's what I've learned over time, that if you're actually getting into an IT company and learning HR, that's the best learning that you can have, because IT has such huge scale and volume. This is the best place to be when you're in HR. So that's something that I learned, something maybe I may want to explore later in life. But yeah, now coming to my process, I think GE is actually very aspirational for HR. It's something that a lot of people aspire for, and GE is known for its culture and for people practices. And it was coming this when I was there, it was coming for our summers. But before summers, it actually did a pre-process engagement kind of thing with the students, and they asked us to make an infographic for ourselves. So we made an infographic, and out of a batch of 45 people, I think there were 20 people who were selected. We got selected, and then we were called for a day to Bangalore. We flew from Pune to Bangalore for a day to spend at the GE Center at their Jack Welch Center there in Whitefield, and they did this process with Excel, TIS, and finally SIBM Pune. All three of us, all the three companies, institutes. Now, when we reached there, we already had TIS with us. So TIS and 20 people from TIS and 20 people from SIBM actually got together, 40 of us, and then there was 2 days of a lot of engagement and games, and they were observing us big time all through that process. Eventually, very, very good experience. You get to learn what a person does at GE or in GE companies, and there was some really interesting engagement exercises that we went through. A lot of grind, a lot of thinking. Some really good business games that we played. Some really good networking. I made actually some really good friends from TIS. From there, I'm still in touch with them. So I think these are the right opportunities to actually get to know new people from your domain. So that happened. And finally, when we came back, we were just awaiting as to if there's anything that's going to come from GE for us or not. But anyway, I think this was back in August. Around August is when we came out from GE after a day or two, and then we of course started preparing for our summers. Thankfully, the seniors at SIBM really help you a lot in preparing for your summers. There's a lot of grind that they take you through. In fact, tougher than what companies actually put you through. So I really didn't like my seniors, but okay, off the record. So yeah, but it's very helpful. I think you should take that very, very seriously, because they actually prepare you for the best and for the worst. So in fact, when companies were starting up, when we actually were looking forward to companies, we were quite sure that maybe we'll actually get through, because the kind of tips that the seniors shared, and the kind of preparation that they put us through, it was incredible. So I think that's what I did myself. I started to study more about the core of HR. There was some really good material that they shared with us, so you should go through that. It's very helpful. Apart from that, I started to learn a lot of current affairs in the industry of HR, because that really helps when you're actually in GDs, to quote those instances really makes your point very gives weight to your point. So I did that a lot. But anyway, we were to start with our process, and while I always wanted to know if I got into GE or not, and I would follow up with a few place commerce, but they would just never let me know. In fact, so I remember we started with our process. The A-1 is what you call it, I think. We just started with our process at 5 in the morning, and then they called me. They told me that you're not going to be part of the process anymore because you're already selected. So unfortunately, I didn't sit through any of the company's GDs or interview processes, because I was already selected by GE. But I did see a lot of people from my batch sit in through the processes, so I have a fair idea. And usually it's a very conventional kind of setup where you have a GD and then of course an interview or a couple of interviews. With GD, again, there could be different themes. Either it could be a particular abstract topic, it could be a case study, it could be some role playing there. So all of that can come your way, but all I will say is that, and I use this tactic for my finals because I didn't convert a PPO. So in for GDs, I think, like Nisha said, don't make a lot of entries, make very few, but have weight in whatever you're saying, and that really is the way to go, and it really helps you. So yeah, I think that's the way about it. But my summer experience was such that I actually got through, so I didn't have to sit through any of the GDs and interviews. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Just a couple of questions, because people would want to know that different HR companies, what exactly is their process? Because for GE it's a different process, or other companies it would be different. So is it like mostly HR companies go for psychometric testing just to see whether you are aligned to their culture or not, or any sort of such innovative ways of hiring people, just like GE had, or I know of a company like Pidilite has a very innovative way of hiring students. So do you know any other company which has sort of a different way of hiring apart from GE where you kind of interned?
So quite a few companies usually go the conventional way. Honestly, they do. They are assessing you through that, and believe me, of course, your I think your scores and your marks in the previous 12th, of course, they become your first screening criteria. But apart from that, I think not very innovative ideas that recruiters come with. Some companies do psychometric tests, yes, but then that's not specifically for HR, but that's for every candidate that they're screening, because of course they want to maintain culture there. So that is there. That's a very common practice. Apart from that, you may actually have a virtual interview eventually, or you may actually, there are certain team building activities that you're supposed to do. Maybe I remember. In fact, what happened was that while I got through GE, GE still came for summers for another candidate, and when they came in, they actually had a team building exercise where they were assessing people basis how you go about leading in a team, or how do you go about working in a team, because that as a whole, it's the team that is going to win the challenge there, and not just you in particular. So I think that's the whole idea. I think the smart way to go about is, like Nisha said, be yourself. Just be yourself. Be smart. Yeah, and be smart. Don't just be yourself and just let be. Be smart enough to present yourself well, and I think you're good to go. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was asking. Because there are certain traits or characteristics which companies look at when they're hiring HR students. Whether it's leadership quality or whether it's like team skills that you have. That's the reason why I was asking you, like, what sort of different exercises do these companies do to assess whether you are a good fit or a culture fit? Because I think 80% of the decision is whether whether you're going to be selected or not is based on how you performed in your HR rounds. That's the reason I was asking this question. So
So in that case, I'll just add one more point, which is your communication skills. I think that makes a huge difference. That makes a lot of difference. So I think if at all one needs to brush up on something, then it got to be your communication skills, so that you can actually articulate and say what you want to. Because a lot of people out there are extremely smart and intelligent. I think who makes it and who doesn't is in the way how you go about articulating thoughts. So just go about doing that well, and if you were to brush on that, and you're good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chandni. I'll move on to Aniket. Yeah, Aniket.
About my summer internship experience. First of all, Akash, has beautifully elaborated on the process. What happens before summer internship placement starts. So in my case, usually in college when I joined SIBM Pune, the first month was very, smooth. You're just enjoying your MBA and all. From the second month onwards, the real grill starts, and you start preparing for summer internships. Placements and all. And usually in SIBM, a very good system is there in place, which basically help people prepare for summer internship interview, GDs, and the whole process. So as Akash mentioned, one student council is there, RSDT, and there are special interest groups, like specialization wise interest groups are like finance club is there, then there is operations club, marketing club, and HR club. So these people also, take initiatives. They conduct mock interviews, mock GDs, and the whole. Once the grill starts, the whole. The system fires all cylinders. Only thing is that you have to fire yourself after these cylinders are fired. So it is like it will happen everything automatic. You don't have to do much. You don't have to do something on your own. The system itself will give you enough opportunities to learn and to prepare for summer internship placements, because there will be mock interviews, there will be mock GDs, there will be whole process. A mock process will be conducted. So these all things prepare you well for the summer internship. This and people who are not experienced, these processes give real confidence to people to face the interviews, to face the GDs. In my case, I'll tell you, I applied to almost all companies. I got shortlist from almost all companies. Till I get placed in InBev. I got a shortlist from conglomerates also. However, I couldn't clear GD rounds or in one organization interview round. In InBev, the process was normal. There were GDs, group exercise was there, and then interview, and then the final selection. So companies have their own ways of selecting people, have their own processes. But in finance, I've observed, no company will, have a different or a special process. Like, they will not add their different element or, in the selection process. One company was there, they asked to write on the blackboard or, to explain something or like. So apart from that, I didn't find anything, usual process, anything different from the usual process of selection. So that was about my experience. And one more thing is, as Chandni and Nisha said, that you have to be yourself. So I did not take much pressure about summer placements and all other things. I enjoyed my sleep also, Akash. Actually, honestly, I used to sleep for 6-7 hours. Apart from the place conversations and these things, even during the day, when classes get over, you get 1 hour or 2 hour in the afternoon. I used to get back to the room and sleep. So I enjoyed actually, and I did not take much pressure about the process. However, so people have a lot of misunderstandings about the process. Like, I don't have experience, will I get a short list? I don't have a good background, will I get a short list? Again, like, I don't have, I'm not good at this thing, will I get a short list? Or how will I survive? How will I face the interview? I think you should put these things, these issues aside, just focus on the preparation and just focus on the what college says, what college follows. Because I have seen lot of, I mean, even my batchmates who did not have a corporate experience or a professional experience before joining the college. They did not have any experience, but they were very scared. They were very like, we did not face any interview in our life, and how we are going to face this interview and all. But I think if seniors will help you overcome this fear. In my case, in actually SIBM, there is a process. You will be assigned a mentor, then mentor will guide you throughout the whole process. The mentor will be allotted in the first month of your MBA only, and that mentor will stay with you till your process gets over. So my mentor actually helped me in everything. He took my mock interviews, he curated my CV. And at the same time, I also interacted with other seniors. I showed them, this is my CV, if you can suggest some changes or like this. So they suggested some changes, and I think that helped me is that pressure of the process, the pressure of the first 3 months are very actually hectic. I prepared for CFA also during those 3 to 4 months. So but I didn't feel much pressure about the process and the summer internship interviews.
Okay. Actually, Aniket, the couple of questions which generally come to a mind of a student who wants to specialize in finance, looking at you is, you have high work experience. So
Right.
when you sit for finance companies, do they prefer people with high work experience, or do they prefer people with less than 1 year of work experience?
No. I can say that some companies have their own criteria or eligibility criteria, I would say, and but mostly companies, even in IB companies, even in companies, core finance companies, they will take up people even if you have high work ex. Like some of my batchmates are having work ex more than 30 months, 35 months, 36 months. They have got placed in IB companies. They have got placed in core finance companies. So it is not an issue. Like companies will prefer people with less than 1 year experience, or the people who are having work ex more than 18 months or like 24 months. So that is not the case. However, a few companies have their own criteria. Some companies will prefer only freshers. Some companies will prefer, they will say at least we need 1 year of experience. So it depends, and it changes. I mean, it differs from company to company.
Okay. And I just want to know what kind of a role are you in, so that it gives like a sense in your profile. I mean, you're working as a deputy manager at SBI. So
Yeah.
shifting from that to a corporate, an FMCG corporate like AB InBev, what exactly is the difference between the role that you were in before your MBA and the role that you'll be in after your MBA?
So in SBI, I worked as a branch manager. However, the working and the setup is completely different in SBI, and a different setup is there in AB InBev. So basically, every person who joins AB InBev in AB InBev GCC office gets this role, that is principal analyst role. So right from the people from IIM Ahmedabad to SIBM and other colleges, people get this role, principal analyst role, which is basically a role below the managerial role. So you'll be assigned projects in the first year of your basically career. I mean, first year of your stint with AB InBev. So usually, once you join as a principal analyst, you will get projects. You will get you will be put on training, and this is the information that I have about AB InBev. And then eventually, based on your performance, you will get promoted. And basically, about ABNB, if I talk about the GCC office where I have got placed, the GCC office is basically a blend of technical, managerial, and analytics field. So if you're interested in these type of roles, because my role will not be completely managerial or not be completely leadership role, it will be a blend of technical, analytics, or and management. So that role, I actually, when they describe the role, that we are a company who deal in analytics, and then technical things also, and managerial roles also, so, and leadership basically. That's what, that was the reason they clearly stated what role they are looking for, what kind of candidate they are looking for. That actually helped many people, or the it gave a clear idea, whether to apply for that company or not. So based on that, people took decision and they applied. I applied and got selected.
Okay. And again, just one thing which I'll ask all the panelists, that is there a concept of a major and minor at SIBM, or is it just like you major in one and that's about it?
Harsh,
Yeah.
it is there. It is there.
It is there. So then
It is,
what did you guys minor in? Like, I'll ask individually.
yeah.
What did you minor in, Aniket?
Mine was in finance only. So my
So your
major
major,
and minor both in finance.
okay. And Akash, Chandni and Nisha, what were your minors? Was it different
Yeah.
than your major?
Yeah, so I'll explain how it works. I mean, it'll give you more clarity. It's a little different from the other colleges. So basically, what you see in other colleges is that there is an option in terms of specialization that you want to take up, and then there is a minor which you take up, but both of them happen in the second year, right? And that is the concept of why major minor actually comes in there. But here in SIBM, because you have a specialization in the first year itself, that remains your major, right? So if you've taken up marketing as your first preference, as your first year specialization, that will stay with you throughout the second year as well, right? Now you can choose, let's say, for example, if you want to diversify a little bit of your skills and say, I also want to understand the subjects of HR along with marketing, right? And so then you get the opportunity to actually go ahead and move to a minor with HR, wherein you can basically learn a few subjects from HR that are on offer. And accordingly, you can diversify a little, or you can, understand a little bit more. But again, because you have very interesting subjects in the specialization that you've already taken up, it's generally imperative that people continue with the same thing until and unless you're really drawn to some other subject, right? Because at the end of the day, the best thing and the worst thing about the specialization based college is that you're going to get placed in that particular industry, right? So if you've taken marketing and sales, you will get a sales and marketing role at the end of the MBA, right? So then you also want to brush up on those subjects, and the subjects that you get in the second year are really important. So that's what happens, and that is why I mean, at least I had that is the thought that I had in mind. So I had taken up a major in marketing, a major and minor in marketing itself.
Okay. And what about Chandni? What did you do?
Yeah, me neither. So I also continued with HR, didn't pick up any minor, and continued with my
Okay.
major.
And I presume the same would be for Nisha also.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Harsh, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I'll just move on to Kunal, the last panelist, for his bits on his summer experience and different companies he sat for, the process. What generally are the processes?
So yeah, we all have mentioned the importance of seniors in the process while we are preparing for the final internship process that we have to sit in. So yeah, I was also assigned a mentor like everybody, and the mentors really help you a lot, and it's on you to get the best out of them. So yeah, I would approach my mentor a lot. I would go there with my CV. I would ask him to take my mock interviews. I would ask him about how should I present myself or the body language. So they'll help you with everything. So that's a very important part of the preparation part that is there before the internship process. And like Akash mentioned, that it's the matter of holding your nerves. So I was also very in a pressure situation. Like I was not that calm, and I wanted to do well. So yeah, to hold my nerves, the only way to hold your nerves is to build confidence. So you need to take a lot of information, right? So I used to take in a lot of information, read about stuff, read about your subjects, read about what is going on in the industry, or the basic material that different committees offer you while you are there. So if you go through the material, you'll build up some knowledge that will give you the confidence to sit in the process, and the mock you'll do great in the mock processes that they organize. So yeah, so for my process, I got placed very early. So basically, I'll tell you how I applied. So initially, the roles that came in were all the same. Like it were all the same to me because for marketing, basically, you'll get a lot of sales roles initially, and all of them were big brands. So I did not pinpoint any particular company that I want to apply for. This company, I applied for all because all of them were big companies, and all of the roles were same. So yeah, and fortunately, I got picked up very early, and I used to get shortlists for every company. And the process that I had been through for Wipro, it was kind of an unusual process that's not very conventional in the industry. So there was no GD. It was kind of a group interview. So the kind that you experience in SP Gen, right? If someone has gone through the SP Gen process. So it was kind of a group interview. Then you have a group exercise. That's also very unusual. And then I had an interview of merely 5 minutes. That ended merely 5 minutes. So that was the process that I had gone through. And yeah, I got placed, and it was a dream run. Yeah. So that's all about my process.
Thank you so much, Kunal, for highlighting that part. So that just reiterates my point of different companies having different processes to
Yeah.
kind of judge which candidates would be the best fit. Cool.
So just to add to that, Harsh, 1 minute.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies now have actually gone ahead and used a lot of gamified content. So I think Aniket will also be able to relate to this, and during our time also. So a lot of big companies. So usually what happens is you have either a psychometric or an aptitude test, right? So now what has ended up happening is that a lot of companies come up with numerical puzzles or games that they make you take up, and there are different levels. I will not name the companies, of course, but these are really big names in the FMCG world and the best of the best. So they will not give you an aptitude test directly, but they would rather want you to play a game, and it's a numerical ability based game or a decision making based game, and based on that they evaluate how well you're doing, right? Apart from that, also a lot of companies have their own way of building a group exercise or like a group activity that they come up with. So a lot of companies will come in and at least in the offline part, we used to have companies come in and tell you that you need to build a bridge as a team, or you need to come up with a particular model of a bridge, something of that sort, which gives you like a group activity sort of a feel. Then there are various group activities or group discussions, various formats that they use. So we've had companies who have come in and who've given us, let's say, 5 different cricket team players, and then you have to argue why your player should be selected over the others. So situation like this, which is completely not related to management or your role at all, right? And see what can you do in a spontaneous decision making process, right? So the good part about all of this is that once you get into the college, you will have preparation for all these formats. You will have tips from the seniors. You will have mock rounds for all of these things. So you're not going unprepared at all. You're not going in the dark. Although the companies will obviously keep revitalizing their processes, but you still have a fair bit of idea of how things are going to go, because your seniors will help you since they have that experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Akash, for adding that. Let's move on to the penultimate section of this session, which will be, I'll want to know from you guys. I'll give you 3 options. You have to rank those options based on, your preference, like what you would have done in your time based on your experience. And tell me and tell us what exactly is the reason behind you choosing, rank 1, rank 2, rank 3. So those 3 things are, case study competitions, live projects and internships, and clubs and committees. So rank these 3 based on the relevance in, say, a life of an MBA grad, and obviously there'll be a personal bias here, so everyone would have like a different experience. So I'll start this time in the opposite direction. So I'll probably move to Kunal first, and then I'll come in this direction. So yeah, Kunal.
You're on mute, Kunal. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. So basically, there are 3 options: case study competitions, committees, and the third one. I'm sorry.
Live projects, internships, anything apart.
So basically, I would say that like in the first year, I was not in any committee. So people who want to join committees can, but if you want to do something else, learn more skills, learn skills related to the specialization that you are doing. So there are many skills that you can build up while you are in the specialization, and that is not being taught in the college as well. So if you want to do that, like for me, that was the priority. So that's why I was not in any committee. So that would be my first priority. Then second would be the case study competitions. But you will get time for the case study competitions when you are done with your internship process and everything. So there's a lot going on in the college while you are preparing for internships, and till the time you are not done with the internship process. So case studies competitions would come then after that. Like in my case, after the internship, like we had a Titan Elevate that was there in my first year. So I like participated in that and reached the national finalists. So that was my second priority, because it gives you a lot of exposure, and like it is a process of learning of how to do stuff. And the third obviously, as I mentioned, was the committees.
So live projects first, case study competition second, and third committees. That's
Yeah,
your rank, right?
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just
yeah,
add
yeah.
one. I'll just add one more
That,
aspect to it. I'll add certification courses to it, because a lot of people have this query when they're starting with their MBA, that should we do some online certifications in marketing, digital marketing, or Google AdWords, Google
yeah,
AdSense. They'll have Blueprint, and similarly for finance and other specializations like Six Sigma for operations, or for finance it would be financial valuation. So I want to know certification also will be a part of it. So rank these four based on your preferences. So I'll move to Aniket then.
Yeah, I will talk about finance only. I mean, from my perspective, case study competitions and live projects would be, would get first priority here. And then after your certifications, and last one is committees and councils. Although I was a part of finance club, I would say that in finance, usually case study competitions and live projects are very helpful. I did a winter internship or a winter project with one organization, and that was very helpful to understand a lot of concepts, because you don't get a lot of time to understand the things to and what happens in the CRP process is the final placements process. Mostly you will be given case studies to solve, and during the first year of your MBA, it will be completely based on the academics is like you learn the subjects and you answer the questions, that's it. So what happens, you are not exposed to the real case studies, and that actually creates a problem during final placement. So my view is that at least finance students should focus on live projects and case study competitions. Case study competitions are very low in number for finance. There are very few competitions conducted by organizations or companies, or finance companies actually. But the thing is, a lot of finance companies will offer you a final placement or a summer internship placement through these competitions, and at the same time the other competitions will give you a very large exposure, wherein even if a company doesn't visit your campus, you will get an opportunity to work with with big organizations or big brands which are not coming to your campus. One example I will give is a credit research competition which happens in the month of December or January. So people get opportunity if you win that competition. So there are panelists from big AMCs and all. So they might give you offer from their organization. So that is one point. So live projects and this thing case study competitions first, and then after other things. One more point is, if you do not have experience, I would suggest to join councils or clubs, at least SIGs. So if you don't have any experience, at least you will get exposed to the environment, how how organizations run, how you have to manage the things. At the same time, you have to manage your placements, your personal goals, and the other, like your college goals or your club's goals also. So it base again, it depends on the priorities of the person, or your background, that person's background.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aniket. Thank you. Yeah. Nisha.
Yeah, so for me, the order would be life projects and certifications being the first thing, because I believe that in this era it's very necessary for one to keep upskilling. And then, at that moment you would feel that, Google AdWords or Google Analytics, Excel is not very useful to you at the right moment. But then in the long run, you will always find a platform where you can use it, and it's actually very useful. And so the first thing would be life projects and certifications. The second thing would be club and committees. This, I think, I would not call it a regret, but if I had a chance to go back and correct something in my 2 years of MBA, it would have been that I would have joined some committee, because I did not any at that moment. And what I have seen my friends, working really hard for the committees, and then what there was a difference, a very sharp difference that could be noticed in a person who has not joined a committee and who has joined a committee, in respect to their confidence and how they took up problems. So I think clubs and committees, they really teach you how to manage things very, very efficiently. And the third thing is competitions. I personally have not been very pro competitions anyway, because I feel that it's okay not to be out there always. It's okay not to take part in your competitions. It's okay. I mean, so I think you should not take part in a competition just because you feel all others around you are taking part in it. It's okay not to be a part of the rat race. I did not take part in any competitions. After I got my PPO, I wanted I wanted to discover my hobbies. So I took up Spanish classes. I completed 2 levels of Spanish classes during the second year. I took up my dance lesson. So I think this is how I have spent the second year of my MBA. It's okay. I mean, as long as you do something that gives you inner peace and then you find yourself, it's more than okay.
Yeah, I think you've had the best of both worlds in your MBA, where you have learned something out of the MBA curriculum, and at the same time you've enjoyed in your first year what the MBA grind is all about. So that's actually a very
Definitely.
varied experience that you have got from your MBA. That's why I had you in the panel. Okay, so yeah, moving on to Chandni.
Yeah. So what I'll do is that I'll actually try and answer this wearing two different lenses. First will be, from the lens of how you go about learning more about management in your particular stream. The other would be more around experience, B school experience, fun, and maybe networking. So I'll first take the first one, which is more around learning and experience there. From that lens, I think I will rank case studies first. Then would come live in live projects or internships, and then would come committees, and eventually will come certifications. And I have my rationale to it. I think case studies, what they do is that they throw very quick and crisp problem statements at you, and you have to solve them for, say, I don't know what, 15 days and a month, and I think you're good to go. So I think that gives you a good flavor of what kind of problem statements can come your way. And it's interesting, and there's a lot that you learn, there's a lot that you read, you research. So it makes you be more confident, at least in that particular area of the specialization that you've picked up, or that particular area that the case study is about. Then comes the internships, of course, the life projects. Depending upon the opportunities that you have, of course, it is across a larger span of time. So of course, there's more exposure, and it's more from an industry kind of exposure. You actually get to work with on a small life project, which is more related to a corporate or a company. So you get to understand that. May or may not be a great experience, but usually it is, and there's definitely some good learning that you get out of it eventually. Then comes committees. There's not much that you learn from committees in terms of your MBA or your specialization, but of course, it's a lot that you learn about networking, management, talking. I mean, it's amazing. It's super fun. It's a great experience there in terms of the learning that you have when you're in a committee. Actually, a lot of committees actually put you through a lot of pressure as well. I remember us working at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning at times, and that's fun. It's amazing fun that you go through. So that way, yes. Then last comes certifications, and in fact, in the second lens, and I'll talk about that, certifications will still be last, because in HR, I can't speak for other specializations, but in HR, unless you're really sure what you want to do, don't do a certification. So I would say that at least take next 3-4 years to first figure out what particular vertical you want to work for or work in, and before that, actually work in all verticals to know what you really enjoy, and then pick up a certification. So that's my encapsulating statement for certifications, and we'll continue in the next lens also. If we move to the next lens, I think which is experience and fun, I would say committees come first, definitely, no two ways about it. Then comes your case studies, and then finally comes your life projects, and again a rationale to it. Committees, because you get to work in a team. There's a lot of, and you make some amazing friends for life. Practically, you live like a family. You are really working. So even when you have breaks in the team, you actually go and sit in your team rooms and you're working. I'm sure in virtual world it will be a little different, but of course you will find your ways to connect and reconnect. So that's amazing. Some depending on which particular committee you are in, you get exposed to different cohorts of people. For me as part of the alum team, we interacted a lot with a lot of alum out there. So that was very interesting. Coming to the next one, which is case studies. I think case studies, again, like I said, a small problem statement, B, some really diverse set of people that you come together with and solve a problem. So again, and you should try and challenge yourself and work with very different people when you're actually picking up case studies, because not your best friends or all your best friends are going to be your great case study buddies. Believe me, that doesn't work. So you need some smart people. So be smart enough to pick up the right set of people when you're working on case studies. So that's there. Then comes live projects, which are usually IC kind of roles, which is individual contributors. Not usually do you work in groups. Is why I put that on third number. And for certifications, of course, I would still continue with my statement that unless you're really sure what you want to do, don't pick up a certification. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, the way you described, from two different lenses, from two different perspectives, will actually be very helpful to students who would, there are a set of students who are very serious about what they're doing in their MBA. Then there are a set of students who have done who are going to do their MBA just for the sake of having fun, like enjoying these 2 years that they have at hand. Mostly engineers do MBA just because they want to get out of the frustration which they would have had in the 4 years of their engineering degree. So I mean, that's actually a pretty good elaboration of
yeah.
What
But
should
with
be the
Harsh, I would actually like to add something. Nisha mentioned that it's important that you get through a committee, and really respect your experience there, Nisha. Glad you said that, but I would actually prefer to agree. In case you don't make it to a committee, no big deal, believe me. It's absolutely fine. You can still have a fantastic experience out there and make best of friends and learn a lot of things, because I remember a lot of smart people out there who were in no committees and still having a ball. So, it's all about how you make your experience there. Go about, kill it, and, you'll be good to go. So don't get disappointed in case you don't get through any committee. It's no big deal, believe me.
Yeah. Absolutely. The 4 different things we discussed, if you don't get into one, you obviously have 3 others left for you. So not done with not the end of the world. Okay, I'll move to Akash.
Yeah. I'll give a real world analogy and then I'll explain my answer. So like I was talking about, if you're going to a shop and if you're buying a cold drink, how do you make a decision to buy which one from the identical cold drink? So the shopkeeper there is actually your B school. And if there is a customer who's the recruiter, you're the bottle, right? So I think 2 primary things which somehow got encapsulated with everyone who spoke about it as well. One is, how do you differentiate yourself in a world of Pepsis? How do you become the Mountain Dew so that you're more attractive, which is your brand building personally? And the other thing is, ki bottle ke andar kya hai? That is also more important. What do you want for yourself, right? So these are the 2 things that I realized. One is that you have to absolutely focus on the things that will help you build your brand, because that is what the customer or the company that will come for recruitment will see in a bottle, right? So the outside has to be really shiny. So you have to make sure that you get enough CV pointers, right? But at the same time, you have to see what is on the inside also. So you try and make sure that you make the most of this experience that you're getting, because for most of us, let's face it, we are not going to be going ahead doing a PhD, or we're not going to have the same campus experience ever again in our lives, right? So this is the last time I'm going to college, at least that's what I know. I can't give any more exams now. So this is the last time I have done this. So for me, the most important part was that I balanced these 2, right? So my priority from day one itself was to try and do everything and then figure out what am I good at, right? And then continue with it. So I took up getting into a council was the first thing that I did in the first month itself. So that is something that worked out for me. And then I took up case study competitions as well later. So that is also something that I had a fair bit of success in. And then I realized that these are the 2 things that I want to continue with, right? So later you have always the option of switching, right? But in the first semester, if you find your groove by trying out new things. So this is, if somebody asks me for an absolute advice, the idea that I have is try your hand at everything that you can do, lose out on sleep, but try your hand at everything that seems interesting to you, because B school, even apart from these 4 things, there are 16 other things that you can do. I have known people who've not done any of these 4 things and have had the best of their experience in B schools, playing cricket or playing football or representing university on something, and so, or just people who've had fun with their friends, right? They've spent all the time with their friends. People who found life partners, right? This is, and I'm telling you, this is a very underrated, benefit of getting into a V school. But people have found life partners there, are getting married and stuff. So, I mean, you have to find out what is it that you want to do, right? What is your personal calling? So I did case study competitions. That was my major important aspect of getting into a B school as well, because I was really fascinated and I aspired that I want to, win a case study competition. That'd be a really huge thing for me. I didn't end up winning, but I got a job through it. So, I mean, it suffices, I think. And the other thing, obviously, is councils and committees, because I can tell you also, just to, give you an alternate side of what Chandni said, that your best friends will definitely not make good case study partners, but the best case study partners will make really good friends, right? So, so Kunal, I mean, I can tell you for a matter that a lot of bonding that has happened between me and Kunal in the second year has been because we've spent a lot of nights stuck in a room finding out a case study solution, right? And so yeah, that helps a lot. So that's something that you do. A lot of bonding happens in councils, a lot of bonding happens in case study competitions. So for me, they would be on priority 1 if you go. The other thing that I would prioritize of the 2 is obviously internship and live opportunities, live project opportunities that you get, because again, they give you real world exposure. You will get an understanding of the corporate world, you will get an understanding of problem solving, etc. And then probably certifications, because again, Chandni can back me up here, but it's a hit or a miss thing when it comes to recruiters as well, right? Because although you have an understanding, for example, if you've done a if you've done a Coursera course, right, you have an understanding of how a particular course works, you know the basics, etc. But still, the real life application of it is obviously more valued than the course itself, right? So probably a live project versus an online course, I would pick a live project any day, because that gives you a lot more exposure. So that would be my categorization.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Akash. The analogy that you derived between, you and Kunal having shared a bond. So again, just a continuation of that particular thing. So when you're choosing your case partners or your case study competition mates, what do you look at? Because generally, when you start off with your business school, the people whom you bond with in the first couple of months, they generally by default become your case partners. And maybe by virtue of not having success in say a couple of them, then you think, okay, I should move on and maybe think about taking students who would have specialization in different fields, which can complement my sort of skill sets and help us reach the final rounds. So how do you make this decision? Because ultimately, you are kind of moving on from your friend who you would have made in the first couple of months and then choosing someone else. How does this thing evolve in say your B school?
So I think my answer here would be that in the first few months at least, I tried out as many people as I could, right? So I made sure that I'm doing case study competitions with my friends. I'm doing case study competitions with other people as well. But by the time you get into the second year, you know your comfort level with other people, right? So the first and the foremost thing that I would like to mention is the comfort level that you have, right? So because if you're going to be spending an upwards of 5-6 hours with those people, you should at least be comfortable sharing who you are and sharing your ideas, right? So that is the first and the foremost thing. And that is why a lot of friends end up doing case studies, because they're comfortable, right? So the work environment that you will have, that becomes really conducive. So you can have fun and you can enjoy while you're working, right? So comfort level is something that was very important to me. The other thing is you should have some sort of connection, right? If you're working with complete strangers, I mean, for a while it may seem okay, but then either you get to know them through the case study competitions and you make friends, or you should have some sort of connection beforehand, because otherwise it gets really challenging. Because if you're just talking about the case and everything, it becomes a very transactional sort of a situation, and then it doesn't work out, right? The other thing is that you should look at varied skill set. So I'll give you an example. Kunal, Mithali, and I. So we were a team, and I continued this team in the second year for most of the competitions, right? And whenever a competition would come in, it was mostly certain that the three of us would pair up. The reasoning why we chose to do this was that we all had different skill sets, right? So Kunal was someone who could execute things really well, who was good at making presentations, videos, posters, etc. So his skill set was very, assuring in that regard. Mithali was so I was someone who could actually ideate, who could come up with new ideas, who could say, can we do this? Ye kar sakte hain kya? So push the boundaries accordingly, and come up with different marketing ideas, etc. And Mithali was the glue because she would make sure that we come for doing all of this. So she would be the hard taskmaster who would make sure that we are on time, and even though we are slacking off, we come on time. So that is also important, right? So someone who enables you a lot, and she was very good at research. She was very good at making sure that things look just so that perfectionism that is required, that came from her, right? So she was the glue that held us together, and made sure that we complete everything that we take up, right? So we came from a very different skill set, although all three of us were from marketing, but we had a lot of varied skill set, and that actually made a great team. Having said that, we never really made any dent in the case study competition universe. We cracked one regional rounds, and I got a PPI from that. But I can tell you the amount of fun that I had during doing those case studies is unparalleled. So we still have a WhatsApp group where we talk about rubbish things right now, and that is something that has continued from the time in college. And I think that is unparalleled, right? Getting a different job and getting success in case studies or not is something else, but you made friends for life that are going to stay forever, right? So I think that is a key takeaway for me.
Was that PPI from RB?
No, so RB, I had a different team actually, altogether a very different team. But the other PPI that I got for Vodafone Shared Services, that is the team that we had. So Kunal and Mithali and Mukta were my teammates in that competition.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Akash, and all the panelists for sharing your experiences and your preferences with respect to things that you would have done if you would have done your MBA again. So, having said that, we are coming towards the end of the session where we'll just take up some questions from the live chat which students would have asked. So, I'll do one thing: I'll display the question on the screen itself, and I'll direct it to certain people, and you guys can then take over to answer those questions. The first question is from Ashit. He's asking, I got to ask, if you have gaps in your career, is it tough to get placed at FMCGs? So yeah, Kunal, Akash,
Yeah,
Nisha,
I'll take that question. So yes, as I mentioned that after completing my engineering, I got placed in a very good company, but then I thought that I don't want to do it. Then I left. So that does not actually uh, makes any difference when you're sitting for the interview. It's just that you don't need to make it a blocker for you to sit in the interview. If you go in the interview with a mind that you have a gap that you cannot justify, that is a much more thing to think over than it's not actually a big deal. So if you can justify it with, like, if you have done something else, or you were doing something else and it was meaningful, then it's not really a big deal. So basically, most of us here, like Akash and Nisha as well, we had gaps in our education. So yeah, so I don't think it made any difference in all of our three careers, right?
Okay. The second question is from Saurabh. So Saurabh again is asking, like, if he has 4 years of work experience, is it difficult to get into, say, do marketing at SIBM? And then similar kind of a question is from Aman as well. Like, he's asking if someone has lower CATs, like, less than 60. So is it like, you face problems while shortlisting? So these two questions I'll probably ask, Nisha or Akash to answer. Akash.
Yeah, I'll just to start up with. I mean, so poor acad is something that will trouble you a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to be mincing my words when I say that, because it's when you go to summers, at least the profile that you come with is something that is a clear testament to who you've been, right? So when a company is deciding whether or not to take you, they do take that in regards, right? So that's something that is important. Having said that, I can assure you that people who had less than 60% in engineering or in 12th or in 10th, a lot of my friends have all ended up in great companies. So the secret sauce could just be that you have to really not do it in one of your education levels. I mean, jokes apart, but the idea here is that when it comes to final placements, at least this is what I realized. What you do in the 2 years of your college is also equally important, right? So when you get into MBA, although you're carrying that CV, although you're carrying that percentage, whatever amount of work-ex, for example, even if you have 4 years of work-ex, if you're carrying that, whether or not that might be a hindrance, but those 2 years will obviously give you a clean slate and a chance to rewrite whatever you stand for, right? So if you end up doing a lot of things in college, if your CV is really great because of the things you've done in your MBA, always the recruiter is going to be impressed, right? So I more or less changed 75% of my CV after I came into MBA. So most of my achievements that you see on my CV right now are either from the first year or the second year. And that is, I mean, then you can obviously build the story and say that, oh, although I had less than 60% in engineering, this is what I've done. And these are the 8 things that stand testament to the fact that I have put in more effort and I have changed the way I did. Maybe I made a mistake. Yes. I'm not running away from that. But look, I've turned it around, right? So that story building is something that happens in MBA. Similarly, for 4 years of WorkX, I can tell you for a fact that in marketing, companies have their own requirements each year, right? So a lot of companies, the same company, in fact, might have a requirement 1 year where they are looking for people who are freshers or less than 2 years of WorkX. And the second year, they might come in and they say that we want people with more than 3 years of WorkX, right? So it's a very dynamic world in terms of placements, at least in terms of summers. Finals, maybe there is a more consistent sort of an effort, but summers, it keeps changing as the industry demands, right? So don't worry about all of these things. At least in terms of work experience, you will have ample opportunities no matter how much of a WorkX you've got, right? That would be my take.
Thank you, Akash. This question is from Rajat. Do companies come for consulting analytics roles at SIBM? I'll probably throw this question to Aniket. So Aniket, if you could, highlight because of your recent experience of having seen your friends getting placed in your finals.
Yeah. So, do companies come for consulting and analytics roles? Yeah, analytics and consulting both. Yes, but if you're talking about the BCG and Bains of the world, then no. I mean, I'm being very honest. But this year, for summer internship, McKinsey showed up, and a few other consulting companies are regular recruiters at SIBM. One of them is Deloitte is there. Then there was I forgot the name actually, which is also a regular recruiter. So some companies do come. I mean, consulting and analytics companies do come for placements, summer internships or final placements.
Okay, thank you so much, Aniket. The next question is to Chandni because she actually got into a startup when she got her final. So this question is to her. Is it good to start a career with a startup company with good job role and huge pay, or shall we opt for a well-established company?
Good question. I don't know, why did you just say that a startup with a good role and huge pay? All of that is not synonymous, by the way. Just saying. But yeah, after having started my career with Ola Cabs, at least, I really enjoyed my stint at a startup, and then I continued to join Hike, which is again a startup. So I thoroughly enjoy startups. In my opinion, it could be a very personal and a biased opinion, but I think the amount of challenges that you face, the kind of problems that you work on, the kind of exposure that you get, it's immense. I mean, I don't know if a well-established company can give you an opportunity to be working closely with the CEO, but I happen to be doing that with both the current startups. I have got an opportunity to work with them and understand what the leadership is saying. So you have to weigh. So it's not, while of course I agree that startups do pay a lot because of the funding and everything and the kind of ecosystem that they are in. And by the way, the job roles is also just as meaty. So it's a choice that one makes. I I have quite a few friends who will never want to go to a startup because of multiple reasons. They say that, we don't want to do that. We want some work-life balance. We want to be, we want some peace in life. Whereas, at startups, we say it's work-life harmony. There's no balance. So you decide what you want to do. So there are times when, I've actually worked 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the night. Then there are times when I've worked over the weekends as well. I still do. And I enjoy it because that's what gives me kick. So it's something that you have to decide, what you want to do. It's very, very individual an answer. But if you ask me, I think, pick the best opportunity that comes your way and don't stop yourself or restrict yourself just because it's a startup.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chandni. The next question is actually to Nisha, because Himanshu is asking very candidly, apart from the good pay and corporate jobs, are these jobs exciting actually? Can you share your experience briefly?
So I'm a fresher, and then I have had only one job and 1 year of experience in Titan. But frankly speaking, in this 1 year, I have got to work on 3 different projects, and each of these projects have been, more exciting than the other. So my first project was, in branding, so designing a complete brand book for a brand by Tanishq Mia. And the second was store stints, where I had to work with different divisions of Titan, and then solve the store specific challenges that the store had. So everything is very impact related. I mean, you do something and then there's immediate impact that you create in that organization. So I think apart from good pay, you will really enjoy it if you are genuinely interested in sales and marketing. But then again, first sales, then marketing. That is the secret sauce here.
Yeah. Thank you, Nisha. Okay, the next question is from Kshitij. So Kshitij is asking, how significant is the impact of the previous work experience if one is looking to switch streams of work in summer internships? So it's kind of similar to coming from engineering to MBA, whether it's from finance or marketing. It's like everything is different from engineering. So how do you go about that? So Kunal or Aniket or Akash, any one of you can answer this.
I think Aniket, if I think he has a good bit of a work ex, he can explain how does it help.
How significant the impact of making previous workings if one is I mean most of the people, the real motive to go for an MBA is to switch streams, or if they have previously worked with XYZ sector, or let's say work with banking sector, they want to move to analytics sector or something other. I think because in my case it is like I'm an engineer. After my engineering, I'm a mechanical engineer. After that, I worked in an IT company. The IT company which actually deals in projects related to HR. So I was a team lead there. After that, I switched to State Bank of India. Worked there in banking and finance. And in banking also, I worked in different capacities. Last 1 year, I worked as a branch manager, where my role was related to managing the operations of the branch. It was not related to finance. After MBA, I'm joining an organization where my role would be a leadership role, and at the same time, I may have to work on some analytics projects or some technical projects as well. So I think if you're looking to switch streams or change your nature of the work, then yes. Again, that one part of the nature of the work. If you're talking about, I worked with State Bank of India, where the culture was completely different. And many people leave SBI just because the culture is very bad there. It's a very toxic culture is there. So people leave and then join other organizations. So one of the important factors when I applied to, organizations during summer internship and, even final placements. So my view was like, I will go for an organization where the culture is really good. Again, that perspective, it differs from person to person. But I think you will have a fair chance if you're looking to change your streams. So your previous streams, if you worked in IT company, you can change your streams. Some of my batchmates, they worked in IT company, now they are in IB. Some of them worked in IT or some batchmates worked in proper manufacturing setup, and now they're working in IT company or some analytics company. So I think you will have enough opportunities to change your streams.
Yeah, just to add to that, so MBA in India is like Dev Prayag, where your previous work experience, your interests, and your future orientation meet. So basically, you get a really good opportunity to shift whatever into whatever you want to do, right? So I have had friends who've come up with a background in marketing and have taken up finance. I have had people in my batch who are CAs, right? So their natural fit is a finance sort of a setup, but they've taken up marketing and they're doing really well there. A lots of people come in with IT experience. A lot of people come in with pre-sale sort of an experience, and then they go into HR or ops. So MBA at least gives you that opportunity, that clean slate, wherein if you have certain inclination towards a particular field, or if you know that your interest lies there, you can still make sure that you can use your work ex in some or the other way, right? Because even if you worked at a TCS and then you're going into an HR, you still know what is it to work in a team, how people management. So I think even if, for example, here Aniket would have taken up HR, he would have still explained the same sort of a work ex in a very different manner to the recruiter, saying that, look, I was a team leader, I have worked as a branch manager, so I know how to manage people, I know how to get the best out of them, I like doing that, right? So when the recruiter hears this, and if he says that hence I am interested in HR, that same person who is now from a finance background becomes a good HR profile, right? So it also depends on how you build the story. So whatever amount of work ex you have, whatever the be the nature, try and find out a link between your current work ex and the future orientation that you want to take up. If you end up doing that, I think any switching of streams works, right? So I think that would be my 2 cents here.
Sure. We'll just take one more question, after which we'll have Sharath. Sharath will share his MBA experience because he's from the batch of 2022. So he's seen it from summer internship lens as well as the online MBA, and plus they're going to continue with it or not. So he'll just give some 2 cents on that particular thing. So this last question is from Kshitij again. So what sort of roles does e-commerce and retail companies offer to marketing students? I don't know whether, Chandni, you have been a part of the hiring process after you have graduated from your MBA. But if you have been, do you have any sort of an idea as to what sort of roles these e-commerce companies generally offer? And plus, the second question that he's asking is, do companies offer only pure marketing roles like brand management roles to students when they visit colleges? So yeah, these two things you can probably, Chandni and Kunal can switch. So Chandni firstly.
Sure. So yeah, I have very closely seen the campus program at Ola is how I know it, and we would go across different campuses, and tier 1, tier 2 colleges. So the kind of roles that most of the e-commerce companies, offer is around program management, which is majorly general management, because that's the kind of hustle that they expect from management trainees when they come in, and there are so many problems to solve. And also, probably I'm just talking from a lens of a startup, because that's how it is in startups. I'm not very sure as to how the big companies in marketing work, but at least in the e-commerce space and the startup space, usually the profiles are around program management, or very specific, if there are any, then are very specific to finance or HR also. Yes, we go for very specific HR roles, but otherwise for marketing, usually in general management, there are more majorly program management roles, and then they are thrown at different businesses. You could actually be part of the I don't know, how that works for e-commerce. You could actually become a category person in some you could actually be managing a category in any of these e-commerce companies. You could actually be doing managing operations in one of these companies. So it's a very diverse and a vast role, and I think if you're getting one, then great, because that's one skill that's actually going to be very, very valued in the coming years, which is program management. So yeah, that's the kind of, at least that's fair idea of what I have, that this is what e-commerce and retail companies offer, at least from the startup space. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chandni.
To add on, like talking about the retail companies, like most of my batchmates and colleagues, I have seen them in mostly sales roles. Like talking about the typical FMCG companies that are there, they'll put you through a lot of stints in the first year. So there'll be like core sales roles as well. There might be corporate roles as well. They may also give you e-commerce roles as well. So it depends on the company how they want to structure the management trainee program that they want the person to go through. So mostly I've seen hardcore sales role as well as some parts of e-commerce stints as well. So that's what I've seen. usually.
Okay.
So just
Thank you.
adding,
Yeah, Nisha.
just adding. So for retail companies, the main position or the role that you get is like area business manager or area sales manager. And for e-commerce, I mean, I'm just speaking for the first 2 years that you get inside a company. And for e-commerce, you can get to handle an e-commerce marketplace. Let's say you do the vendor management for Amazon or Myntra or Flipkart. So these are the e-commerce roles that you get. And then also for marketing, core marketing roles, there are several of my friends who have directly got a marketing role. Say he's handling the digital marketing for a specific brand, or so core brand communication roles. So it's a mix of both. I mean, it largely depends on the company that you get into, whether they have these to offer you at the specific moment or not.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nisha. So I'll just admit, Sharath, because of a limitation that we can have only 6 people, I think I'll have to put one of you in the waiting room. And once Sharath is done, then again I'll admit you back. So I think Kunal could. I'll just put you in the waiting room. Just let Sharath speak about his experience, and then I'll again admit you back. Okay. Just a second. Hi, Sharath. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hi Harsh. Am I audible?
Hi. Yes. So Sharath, straight away, I mean, a question to you, and just give us a background about yourself. What exactly are you doing right now? And because you're in your second year right now, you must be doing your summer internship at this point of time. So I just want to know from a lens of an HR that you are currently, and because you're pursuing HR, and you must have seen the summer internship scenario at your college this year. How exactly is it affected, if it is affected in, say, negative terms? Is it affected? And plus, at the same point of time, how is the experience of online MBA going for you? And what is the communication from the college authorities, if you guys have any sort of a chance of having an online MBA, at least for your batch? So just want to know these things. Obviously, you give your background first, introduction about yourself. After that, you can answer these questions. All over to you.
All right. So let me make this very quick background info. So a very typical, profile. I did my engineering first, and then I worked in an IT company for a couple of years. And then I thought that IT was not something which I was meant to do. And then I wrote a couple of exams, entrance exams, and got into SIBM Pune. I had a few options as well. I had a host of IIMs. I had SCMHRD, SIBM Pune. And let me not get into why I chose SIBM Pune, because that's a completely different question. Addressing your questions, so let me first go with the last question. As far as the offline mode is concerned, yes, that was a huge question mark, but we did get to spend a couple of months on campus. The Maharashtra government permitted campuses to start with 50% occupancy in March, and the 50% of the students were there on campus in the month of March. So we are hoping that everything gets sorted out, and we do get to enjoy the campus for the second year at least. So that's but then that's not something in our hands. So something that I've learned from the 1 year of MBA is just control the controllables. Going ahead with the communication part, everything as far as till now it has been concerned. The communications have been smooth, and we've been at every stage. Director SIBM Pune communicates to us as to what are the plans, what are the government objectives, when is the government permitting them to call people on campus and stuff like that. So that's there. As far as the summer placements are concerned, I can assure you that it's been fairly smooth, as smooth as summer placement can get during a pandemic. Last year, companies had the shock of adjusting to a pandemic, but this year they're better equipped to handle it. Interviews were held virtually. Group discussions were held. They were moderated group discussions, open group discussions. There were a host of things that are being held. And I don't think there have been any job resentments or such in SIBM Pune from that point of view. So it's been very smooth in the summer's point of view as well. Yeah. What else?
Yeah. So just two to three questions more from you. So your junior batch will also be joining in an online setup. Probably they can shift offline if things get better. So because you also started online, what would be your 2 cents of advice that you would give to these people? Because they might be very again, they might be thinking as to what all things they should do before joining a college, and how do you adjust to that particular scenario of adjusting online. So what would be your advice to these people? How should they calm themselves down if they have butterflies in their stomach right now? So what would be your advice to these students, because they are starting in the same way as you started, and then the way you graduated in your entire first year?
So first things first, with respect to the summer's point of view, one thing which I feel everyone needs to know is talking to a camera. So till now we've been used to talking to a person, seeing a nodding head in response and all those things. So the first change which I had to make was that I had to talk to the screen. And the common mistake which people do is they see the faces. I see the faces. I see, let's say, a Chandni or Hush. But we were trained by our faculties and the seniors to look at the camera. That is one thing which, if you can practice, it would be great. And for people who are like me, I am an ambivert. So if you're like me, if you networking is one a major aspect of an MBA. So online it is difficult. So I would suggest, please try to get out of your comfort zone and do try and get to know the entire not only your batch. There are 3 batches at SIBM Pune. There's a flagship MBA program, there's an innovation and entrepreneurship, and there's leadership and strategy. So do get to know people across the programs and your seniors as well, because be it summers or your councils, anywhere that you go, your seniors are the ones who are going to be your pillar of support. So please do not hesitate to reach out. That is what I'd like to suggest to the incoming.
Okay. And the last question that I have to you, Sharath, is that you are a part of the aspirant relations team at SIBM. So what exactly is the work of that team? If you could give a brief about the clubs and committees that are there in the college, and what all things these people will be facing in, say, the next couple of months.
So as and when you get into the college, there are 9 councils and few student interest groups as well. So I am a part of one of the councils, which is the aspirant relations team. We take care of handling the aspirants from right from helping them prepare for SNAP to handling their admissions and onboarding procedure. In fact, the onboarding for the 21 to 23 batch will be started shortly. That is something that we do. And there are a host of other councils as well. There's alumni, there's corporate interface, there's placement advisory team. Each one has its own unique place in SIBM Pune. And the one thing that differentiates SIBM Pune is the fact that most of the activities are run by the students, right from the outgoing batches convocation to the incoming batches onboarding. Everything happens through the students. So please do get involved in the clubs and committees to keep the student culture alive, is what I would want to say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sharath, for spending some time and guiding your juniors, your immediate juniors, as to what all things they should face, and that they should not be skeptical. Things will get better going forward. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cool. So, Kunal, welcome back. This is just the last segment, so we'll just continue with the second part of the Q&A round. So the second part, it starts with Rajat's question: is there any limitation on the number of offers one can get, which we are not allowed to sit for any companies after that? So, is it like you get an offer and then you're not allowed to sit for any other companies, or is it like you can sit for as many companies and accept as many offers as you can?
I think it's the basic economics principle. If one person ends up getting all the offers, the others will not get a job, right? So, and this is not SIBM specific. I'll just throw it out there. In any college that you join, you will be only allowed to take one job. I think it's fairly obvious that you are going to get that one job. Having said that, I mean, we have dream offers, etc., that keep the sort of policy keeps changing. But if you get a PPO and you make it through summers, then you sign out of the process officially, because again, at the end of the day, for the placement teams across India, the idea is to make sure that the whole batch gets placed, right? And not that only a few people get really good offers, right? So given that idea, I mean, it's fairly obvious that if you get a PPO, etc., you sign out of the process, and that job offer is what you join. In finance also, once you get a job offer, once there is a offer on the table and you agree to it, you end up sort of joining that company, and you have to then like, you don't participate in the rest of the process. That is again done so because it's fair for the other students. Because let's say if you have an offer right now and you still continue in the process, it's not fair to the other students who've not had opportunities, right? So it's best that you then opt out and then let other people get that opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much, Akash. Did any one of you have operations subject also, like a mix of your electives in your second year? Then you'll be able to handle this question from Akshay. That's how's the operations at SIBM, and what is the general batch size? I think batch size, Aniket had already pointed out, it's like 35 to 40 people. But I just want to know, as in the placement scenario as well as the curriculum, how good or whether it's as good as, say marketing or HR of SIBM. I think anyone who would have taken operations electives can go for it.
Yeah, so operations elective in the second year we've not taken, but you have operations subjects throughout. So in the first year as well, you have your operations management, which comes in the first semester. You have supply chain management that you take up. Then even when it comes to Six Sigma, it's not just restricted to people from operations background. So if you want to, let's say if you're a student at SIBM and you want to take up the Lean Six Sigma certification green belt, the operation clubs, the operation club actually works with vendors, preferably KPMG, which is what I've seen in the 2-3 years. So they come in, they get the workshop rolling. You have to, it's an interest based, it's a voluntary thing that you have to take up. So in case you want to take up that certification, that is also something that the college facilitates, right? So you end up taking that as well. Apart from that, in general, I mean, the ops faculty are all experienced and they come from varied experiences in the industry, in manufacturing, in productions, etc. A few roles that are offered are also in line. So you get roles in production, you get roles in manufacturing, you get roles in logistics, supply chain majorly. So now with the new age also, you get a lot of consulting roles in IT companies as well. So business transformation is something that is, picking up right now in the last 2 years. That's what I've seen. So change, if you want to transform a particular business, if you want to give them specific solutions based on the problems that they're facing, and that is more like a general sort of a role. So the one good thing about SIBM again is that irrespective of what specialization you are from, most of the consulting roles or the general management roles that you will get, those companies allow all the specializations. So for example, if you're that is specialization agnostic. For example, I'll just give you a few names. So KPMG, IBM, PwC, or EY. If these companies come in and they offer like a role which is in consulting, IT consulting, we have international roles as well that have come in the past few years. And these companies allow all specializations to sit in, right? So if that is something that interests you, you can definitely take it up. But otherwise, core operation roles are also available. The one thing that differentiates SIBM from, let's say, a NITI or an IIT Bombay would be that their curriculum is very heavily based on operations, right? Because the advantage that they have is, for example, if you take NITI, all of them are engineers. So they come with some sort of understanding that is already there in terms of operations management, right? Which is not the case here in SIBM Pune. People from different backgrounds can still take up operations. So the curriculum is more advised in a general way rather than a very specific operations heavy curriculum that you will see throughout the 2 years. So you get a hands-on experience of the general management aspect and specialization of ops rather than only studying ops throughout the 2 years. So that is
Okay.
probably a difference.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Akash. I'll direct the same question to Aniket because he said he came from an ops kind of a background, not a core finance background. So, did you not contemplate taking ops as a specialization? Because you're not from a finance background. The work that you've done is also not finance oriented. So then, what made you choose finance over ops? Because ops was something that you were doing as a part of your work experience.
Yeah. The one thing was there, I chose specialization based on my interest, because when I started learning or started working in financial markets, and then I decided, okay, this is something that I want to learn. This is something that I want to, deep dive into. So that was my, it is just based on interest. I chose finance. However, why not operations? So one thing is like, I'm a mechanical engineer. A few subjects in mechanical engineering, like operations management, operations research, and then we had project management in engineering as well. Reliability management was there. These subjects were already there in MBA curriculum for operations batch. And then I, thought, it's not, if I have already studied these subjects, I was pretty good in these subjects. So from learning point of view, I would not get much if I choose operations. So that was one of the reasons why I did not take operations. And even if I get a chance to choose between finance and operations, I'll go for finance because I wanted to learn finance. And one suggestion that I'll give is, the curriculum is all there on the website. So you just download the curriculum, see the subjects, what subjects are there, and if the subjects interest you, then you choose that specialization. Other things don't matter. I mean, if it's my perspective, other things like placement and opportunities and other things don't matter much. If you have interest in that particular field, you take up that field. Eventually you may not get a your dream job after your MBA, but after working 1 or 2 or 3 years, you may land up in your dream job. So just thinking in the long term perspective, if you have long term perspective, then I think it makes sense to choose a subject or a specialization based on your interest.
Okay, thank you so much, Aniket. So Pranav's asking, which specialization in SIBM should we go for if we are looking to build a career in product management or business analytics? So I think Chandni or Kunal, any one of you can take it. Chandni, go first.
Yeah, I can take this question. From what I understand, I think product management and business analytics should usually be is a role that's routed to marketing students. From what I understand, and in fact, even in FMCGs, you do have a product management role, which is not very synonymous to what a tech product management role is, but usually you could make a switch to a tech product management as well, and that I've seen that kind of trajectory for quite a few friends and people in the industry. So I think that's the closest that you can get to marketing if you were to choose one. Yeah.
Okay, and just one more question to Chandni. Were you an avid book reader?
No, I wasn't. I am not.
Because someone was asking, like Apurva was asking, can you recommend some good HR books to read in the time that they have, right?
Okay, no, I'm not an avid reader. No.
Okay, yeah, Kunal, if you could just elaborate on the same question, like if someone wants to get into product management or business analytics, what exactly should be their preference with respect to specialization?
So actually, they're not particular product management roles that I've seen on the campus being offered. So I've seen people moving to product management roles after they've moved into their first job. They build up some skills and then move to these kind of roles. So I guess it won't matter much, like because it actually depends on the company as well, what product they are making. So if it's a financial company and there's a role in product management, so they might also prefer a guy from finance background, right? If the company is more concerned with marketing or it's building some other products in retail or something, so those kind of roles may prefer marketing people. So like Chandni mentioned, that program management is something that is very like that is coming up really well in the industry. So those roles may want marketing people into it. So that depends on the industry and the companies that are like coming out with these kind of roles. So yeah, it's not really that there'll be a particular stream that you need to choose to get into a product management role. People move into product management roles after their 1 or 2 jobs. So yeah, that I've seen.
Just again, one more question out of curiosity, and something I picked up from the chat was: is there a general management specialization offered at SIBM? Like if someone has like 4 or 5 years of experience, wants to go for Gen Man, no?
So
then
no,
what do
there's
these
no.
kind of...
Yeah, you continue. Sorry.
No, I'm just asking, like, what do then generally these kind of students do who have like very high experience, want to do general management, like a mix of all specializations? What exactly is the degree that they get? Is it like an MBA? They have to get into a major. They have to have something out of the 4 options that you mentioned, or is it like they can get like an MBA general degree, something like that? So how is the scenario there?
So for the MBA regular program, that is the flagship program that SIBM runs. there are 4 specializations. So every student that is there in the program has to pick up one specialization from the 4. So that is how it goes.
Okay, no problem. I think that answers the question of that particular person. This question I'll ask to Nisha, because I presume she was not a part of any clubs and committee. So did you have any sort of a disadvantage during your internships and placement interviews?
Not at all. It's completely your personal choice. I mean, not a single question was asked to me during my summer internship as to why am I not a part of any club and committees, or have I not taken part in any competition. So no, not at all.
But generally, some companies look at your PORs, right? The responsibility position that you would have held in your undergraduation or post-graduation. So from that perspective, is it recommended to be in a club and committee just for the sake of having that particular, void filled in your CV if you don't have any sort of a POR from before?
See, it's completely upon the person. So there are a lot of other opportunities where you can create that CV pointers. I mean, just volunteering for a specific event in the college also serves as a POR, because you get a lot of opportunities to be in that position. So if you don't get into any committee just because you want to make a CV pointer, I mean, it's nothing to be sad about. There are a lot of other opportunities that you get to create as a CV pointer.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nisha. So the last question for the day is kind of the first question that I asked Chandni. Is SIBM at par with SCMHRD for HR?
I'm going to say yes. I'm better because I'm from SIBM. But if I were to give you a very So I'll tell you what, SCMHRD was actually, the inception of SCMHRD happened with the intent of actually creating or, only for HR. So of course, they have a more focused HR curriculum, no two ways about that. In fact, there are quite a few senior leadership in HR and their alums across the industry. But having said that, that doesn't mean that our alums are not out there, at senior positions. So that's, if we were to compare that aspect, I think we are at par definitely. As far as placements are concerned, I think, again, at least as far as I'm concerned, I think, yes, placements are definitely at par. Definitely your chances of getting into a better company are higher at SIBM as compared to SCMHRD, because you'd be competing with 100 odd people out there. So yeah, in my opinion, definitely SIBM's at par in terms of HR with SCMHRD, and way better in terms of campus. So yeah, just saying.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much, panelists, for sparing time on a Sunday evening and helping out your juniors who are actually in a dilemma at this point of time, whether they should join a college this year or they should continue with their work. Maybe when things get better, then join and get an offline experience. So thank you for taking all the questions, sparing time, and at least trying to address as many doubts and queries as the students might have. Just one thing which I like to end with is the reason why we're doing this session was to make sure that the students who are joining SIBM Pune or have calls from SIBM Pune get all your doubts queries resolved. And for that particular fact, we have like a mentorship program for MBA students that we had last year. We are going to continue with the same this year as well. So in case you guys are interested in being a part of it, your alums will be helping you out with all the 4 different aspects that we talked about during the session: your placement processes, your case study competitions, your the way you become like a personal brand, which Akash was highlighting. It's like building a personal brand out of yourself. And so those sort of things we'll be covering in that mentorship program. So do check out that. We'll be sharing the links on the groups itself. You can, and plus the mails also have been dispatched to you guys. Probably check out your inbox or spam wherever you would have received the mail from CMP. Check out the brochure. If that interests you, if you go through the curriculum that we have at hand, and if that interests you, do enroll for it, and then we'll reach out to you with regards to that. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you again. Thank you all the joinees. I mean, all the attendees who kind of attended the session and made it like interactive for your alums. And all the best to you. Whichever college you decide, this is going to be hell of a ride in the next couple of years. So all the best to everyone else.
Yeah, all the best.
Thanks a lot.
All the best.